Carolyn Hobson. Here. Ann Murphy. Here. Callie West. Here. Sean Henry.
Here.
Carrie Neeson. Here. Audrey Brock is not here. We have Cloud, I'm sorry, remind me your last name. Cloud Clark. Clark. Carl Ayers.
Here. Here.
Next is the approval of minutes from December 4th, 2024. Anybody have anything you wanted to add or take off the minutes? Can I get a motion to approve? I'll motion. A second? Oh, second. Approve first. Carolyn was first.
Okay, thanks.
And then next on the agenda is public comment of non-discussion items.
That'd be us.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Joe Sochek, and we're with Flat Valley Hunting Retriever Club, which I have met you guys all before.
Yep.
And if I can hand you guys each some information here. We had given this information to Keith,
Thank you.
and he had passed it along to the city board, is that
Board of
correct?
Trustees, yep.
The board of trustees.
Okay.
This same proposal. And then since you guys were discussing the last time that I was here, trying to decide on usage of the Jaskowski property. We just wanted to get together, since you guys haven't had a meeting since before Christmas, or yeah, since December, to stop in and just hand out this proposal. We're trying to ask you if we can get access to the property on a pilot program in the median prior to you actually opening it up to the public, so that you can kind of have an idea of what we do, how we operate, and the usage that we would have for it, which might be helpful in decisions in the future and how it would be open once the whole property is open to the public. So that's kind of what this is. Starts out with a little bit of history of our group, and also the hunting retrieving club nationwide, a little bit of what it entails, and then what we would be using the property for, how much we would be using the property, anticipated anyway, as far as that. And then some at the end there to basically try to give back to the city of Berthoud and how we would do that. So if you guys would consider that as you're trying to decide on how to utilize the Jaskowski property, we would surely appreciate that. If you guys have any questions, we've got a couple of senior members here that if you have anything that I can't answer, they can definitely.
Can you talk a little bit more about the pilot program and what your
Yeah,
vision is for that?
it kind of in the usage, anticipated usage of that first page. So what we would propose to have is to have us have access through the locked gate, locking the gate as we enter the property and while we're on the property, and then having it only for our club members. And our club, we can also add to, our club can also add to that property our liability insurance to cover anybody that's on that property from our club. And then we would just be using it throughout the week. Typically, if it was a normal, and most of the time this is during the summertime, it's from usually about March until September. That is the highest use of training. Just because the rest of the time the people are out hunting and they're not necessarily training their dogs. But during that period of time, there might be one or two people that would go through the gate and utilize it in an evening or a day. And then usually on other properties that we sometimes will have a group meet once a week that consists of between probably 4 and 12 people plus their dogs. And then 2 or 3 times a summer, we have big training days, which is more like 30 to 40 people that would come out with their dogs. And those are typically on a Saturday and Sunday, and they're very much pre-planned. And I think we proposed on this initially to do 1 or 2 times a year on that property. And then we do probably 6 of those each year as a big group.
Rotate through.
Yeah, we rotate through our other properties that we have. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
So Keith, do you have any updates on your side as far as like where things are at, or if
So
this type of pilot program would be allowed by those folks you're working with?
typically the answer from the town is the property's closed until it's developed and becomes something. So, the current process right now is the conceptual design, which I think is at around 60% complete. We're trying to take that to the board in the next month, depending on how it fits in the board schedule. So we're expecting some of that stuff brought back to us, the design brought back to us, so we can take it to the board, get their feedback as well on this and on the disc golf part of the design. So it's kind of where things sit right now.
Can you, I'm sorry, I'm sure you addressed this, but can you refresh me about the Colorado Open Lands when you met with them, if they gave approval for this kind of use?
Yeah, they did approve this use, just ensuring that we didn't overuse it with this type of use, basically.
Did they give any threshold on that one though, as far as the overuse, what that
No.
might mean? Okay, just curious.
One of the things that might be good to address is, it seems like their main concern was over the wetlands, the quality of the wetlands and destruction to the wetlands. So do you mind saying again what measures you could take to
Sure.
limit the damage?
Yeah, sure. So when we met with Keith, he actually had us walk the property, so that he could kind of understand what we were asking. And that property is actually specifically designed for what we want to use it for. So they actually so our dogs would be in the water and out of the water. But as far as like the cattails and the stuff that's on the edge of the bank, we don't want to disturb that. We want it to be as natural as it possibly can. We don't want it to look like, trucks have run over it or anything like that. We would, so there are specific spots around those properties that they have to where we would be launching our dogs, so to say, into the water. And they're already bare. Those sections are, and we would utilize those same sections. We wouldn't be like, well, let's go from over here and then cut down some cattails or trample some cattails to get to it. We wouldn't want to do that either. And then typically if a dog goes through the cattails, it's not gonna damage anything as it goes through. I mean, they just work their way through the property. And then we also, and we would definitely stress, because I know Keith was very adamant about not having any vehicles off of the main roads that are on there, and then also trails that are there to keep people on those trails. And we would definitely respect that. Did that answer the question there? Yeah. I mean, we want it to be, we want that cover. We want it to look like it does if you go to some other pond that isn't touched by a whole bunch of people. Yeah.
I mean, I guess what you were saying, is this even possible? Because you're saying that this town's stance is that nothing is done on it until it's done?
Correct. So I don't know if it's like, I think that's the stance that you're gonna hear if you take that to the board as well, but I'm not speaking for everyone in the town, I don't think, so. It's been our stance for like 10 years, so.
I mean, one of the reasons why we're bringing it here is because we have read the easement, and I know that Ms. Jankowski would like to have this type of activity going, and we thought, well, if we could get in there and do it beforehand, then you would have an idea, are we the ones destroying anything? Are we the ones causing the problem? Are we the ones are we using it the way that you would like us to prior to the citizens all coming in, and then there's not really, control of that. I do know that there's at Chatfield Reservoir, they have a section there that is set up for the type of training that we're doing. And they have access, in order to get access to there, there's a process that you have to go through in order to be on that portion of the property. And I think we could probably with signage, once it opens up to the public, to be able to eliminate that section as per like signage to say that you have to be a member of our club in order to access that property and to be able to use it like that to kind of control the damage and so that it doesn't get overused also.
I think we're all ultimately in favor of dog training happening on that property, but really it's up to the town administration as
Okay.
to whether or not they're willing to let
Right.
you all use it
Yeah.
before anything is developed.
Well, if you guys happen to say that, hey, this might be a good idea, that might go a little bit for us in that aspect.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand why not. I guess that's, as far as the town goes, do you know, and did I miss that, as far as the reasons for not allowing limited use prior? Is
Yeah.
that, do we know, or?
Typically, it's just wanting the property to be developed, ADA compliant in all ways, usually a restroom's put out there. The amenities that people would need to use the property. Usually we like those to be available if the public are going to
Gotcha.
use the property.
Gotcha.
Could it be structured as a lease? Just like happens with farmland, that there's a club that would.
Not a lease we could be paid on. You can't do anything other
Yeah.
than farm, yeah.
I think also an issue could come up where it sets a precedent. So that might be a hesitance
Exclusivity,
as well, right?
Yeah.
From my point of view, if you guys tell me to ask this specifically of the board, I will do that. I can't speak for everyone, obviously, right? But if it is your committee's advice that this should happen, I can give that so that it becomes a discussion item. And I would actually recommend that you guys come to whatever specific board meeting
Sure.
that it
Yes.
would be on the agenda to make your point in front
Sure.
of the board itself.
Yeah.
But I can't say obviously yes or no. However, as the liaison to this committee, if you were to tell me, hey, this is kind of the committee's advice, or this is the committee's we had a discussion and this is kind of what we decided and we would like you to look at it, or we are in favor of this or we're not, I could bring that specific feedback to the board before the meeting or during the meeting or one way or another.
I just got this, so I haven't even read it, so I would
Same.
like some time to look at it before, at least I give a vote or a recommendation personally. But I think that's a good way to approach it, just to have us, maybe I'll take a look at it, and then maybe that's an agenda item for next month or something, and we can
Mhm.
decide if we wanna
Do you
do
know,
that.
you said this month, probably, it would be either, so it would be next week or,
It'd be the
3
fourth,
weeks.
the fourth Tuesday or the second Tuesday in March. So.
That would be after our court meeting.
The second Tuesday would be,
So could we add it as an agenda item just to revisit this
Yeah.
at our next
That's
board
what you
meeting,
want,
just
yeah.
real quick, and then
Mhm.
at least the board has a recommendation from us for your March meeting.
I guess on that, if it is scheduled for the end of February, could you ask that it be
Yeah.
delayed so that we can have another meeting here?
And then just in closing, and I appreciate your guys' time, is if you could bring it to the board, and we would actually be able to talk to them about it, even if they do turn us down. We would like this to be a really long relationship. I mean, obviously, we would like to utilize the property here as, tomorrow, if we could. But in the long run, we would love to, once it's open to the public, to be able to have access for that from our club. And so if we could propose this to them, and even if they deny it, at least then they would consider it possibly for when it does get opened up. to the public that we may be considered, and they would actually want to have some exchange with us to be able to say, what do you do? How do you do it? You know, can you please give us more input so that we have that opportunity? We would appreciate it.
I got a question. As
Sure.
far as the statement in here, to further express our gratitude, we welcome suggestions from the town of Berthoud on how we can give back to the community. Any ideas?
Yeah, we had a couple of ideas of, actually during Berthoud Days, putting on a dog training seminar. We could do things as far as just a demonstration, or we could actually have, none of us are professional trainers. We do seek counsel from professional trainers during seminars and things like that. But we could definitely work with people with their dogs, or have them just come out and watch what we do so that they could kind of have an understanding. We would be willing to have a booth at the Berthoud Days also. And then we've also considered having anybody in the city of Berthoud to have a 50% membership to our club, to be able to say, thank you very much for allowing us to have this property. Because, you know, the other properties that we have, we lease. So we're paying a landowner to be able to access that. We understand this is a unique situation where you can't do that. So we were thinking, well, how can we help? Well, that would be an idea, would be to give them a 50% membership.
So that would mean they could train their dog, residents
Sure.
could train their dogs. And that's been a big concern for me personally, just knowing a lot of friends that hunt in town
Mhm.
and a lot of friends that are kind of entering the world of hunting. So I just, that's
Yeah.
great to hear. And I don't know, as far as stewardship of the property itself goes, is there any interest in that? Would that,
Oh, yeah.
I guess for Keith, does that even make sense that I'm asking this question? As far as weeding or cleanup or anything like that, is there any value there? Is that?
I mean, cleanup days are great.
Yeah.
Those definitely can occur. Probably not like like we wouldn't rely on anyone to like take care of all the property for,
Right.
you know, but setting up some like monthly cleanup days are nice and easy to manage, yeah.
And we do that.
As a group, we're very self-sufficient. My name is
Yeah.
Wes Dillon. I'm from Southwest Loveland. And you know this, our good friends at the state have greatly restricted our ability to use state wildlife areas now. Von Hagler Reservoir, which has been a meeting place for us to get together and work our dogs, get some exercise, has been closed to that now.
Yeah.
It's become a homogeneous consolidation of access.
Yeah.
For good, bad, or otherwise, but you understand where we are. Our club is a grassroots organization of conservation-minded individuals, both men and women. We have house dogs that are hunting dogs that are house dogs. The Jaskowski property was specifically designed for this use.
Yeah.
She was a legacy member in our club.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's cool.
And it seems, I believe that's part of the presentation, but it seems that we as a special interest group can provide a solution to the use of the property. It's been set idle for a decade or more. And we understand that there are civic responsibilities, and this is not like dealing with Farmer Joe in Weld County. This is a very unique set of circumstances, and Keith has been very gracious in providing us a guideline for success. Unfortunately, you know, the wheels of civic progress turn very slowly. That's fine. We simply want to ask for perhaps a variance that allows us access for its intended purpose. We're self-sufficient. And when we go out into the field, we know that the city, when it wants to develop an area, needs to have everything by the book. And we respect that. You know, when we go out, we're self-sufficient. We self-monitor and we self-police. So you will never know that we're there unless you come join us, for the most part. And we would welcome that, the opportunity to demonstrate perhaps in front of a committee or the board what we do, who we are, and how we do it.
Is that a concern? I mean, there won't be facilities out there if they do approve it and they do let you be out there. Is that something that you have at other places, or is not having bathroom facilities?
We don't have bathrooms at,
If we need to do the bathrooms, the club will rent porta pot and get it out there.
yeah, if like
That-
on a training day or
Yeah,
something like
training
that.
days, or even if we do get to use it, you know, say 1 day a week or a couple days a week, I'll speak for the club, we would have no problem getting a porta pot out there and cleaning it, maintaining it, and having it cleaned. That's what we do, it's standard procedure. Yeah.
Right, well, we appreciate you all coming
Yeah.
out. I think we add it to the agenda for next month and then be able to review it a little bit more and then make a recommendation. But is that
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, guys.
Move on to the discussion items with 2024 Berthoud Recreation Review. Or do you have any other public comment?
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Oh, it went to the wrong screen, look at that.
I know, and I'm gonna mess it up even more.
How do we?
That's all right.
Slideshow.
Well,
It keeps going to the other.
Oh, it just
it
jumps.
presented on this screen.
Oh, gotcha.
Computer is pulling from that. That's not-
Click the slideshow tab at the top.
This one?
No, to
Over,
the
over.
right. Actual
Animation, so
words.
file, home, insert, design, transition, animation, slideshow.
No, go back. On the actual words,
Okay, file.
you're at file, go over to slideshow.
I'm sorry, I don't.
Yep, there it is.
And go from current slide on the left. Nope. On the
You're
left.
on the right.
Nope. Oh, okay, from beginning.
Maybe one might work, hopefully.
Oh, it doesn't,
No.
it doesn't like
No,
it.
it's pulling from,
Yeah.
I mean, you can get out
This
and
is
get
a
back
pretty
in
one.
and reshare it. This is
Let's
fine
try it
too.
again.
I think
This
that works.
works.
This
Yeah.
works.
It's fine.
Yeah.
All good. Big screen.
How do we
it keeps pulling.
play? It loves this computer, okay, no.
Are you trying to do slideshow
Okay.
mode?
Hmm?
Huh?
Are you trying to put it in slideshow mode?
No, just
No,
trying to-
it's on slideshow mode on the other screen.
It's just not.
That makes sense.
I got you.
Yeah.
So whatever I
We
do
got
is
this.
doing it on the other screen.
I'll
How many screens over there?
note that. We got new software, it's
And it doesn't do anything when you want.
set up great, and then now we know this.
Oh, I tried, I'm sorry, guys. Well, recap of 2024 for the Berthoud Rec Center. So I'm gonna start off with the memberships, because this is our main revenue source. We are up 9.52% from 2023 for 2024. So that's a pretty big jump for the recreation center. We did have 1,211 new member accounts created for the Berthoud Rec Center. So that's a nice number. Currently, we're sitting at holding 3,667 memberships right now. Now, that doesn't include, that's like a household. So like you would have a household membership. So that doesn't include all the members in your family. If we pulled those, we'd have probably 5,000 to 7,000 members. So just something to think about. Currently, we do have insurance groups. So if you have heard of Silver Sneakers or Silver and Fit or Renew Active is also One Pass or Adaptive. They've kind of changed their names. So if you've heard of any of those are if you are Medicare eligible. Those are those type of membership, which mainly are typically 50 plus or 60 plus. So if you are eligible for those, you basically get a free membership with our facility.
and your insurance reimburses you for those, or reimburses us for those. So every time they swipe, we get a reimbursement for that swipe. So it's pretty a nice little perk for us. Something to think about is 90,798 people have scanned their membership cards last year. So every time they came in and they scanned those membership cards, they went and used that facility.
Does that mean 90,000 different? That means 90,000 as far as like
Scans. 90,000
scans. So,
scans.
so I'm a lot
Yep,
of scans in there.
reoccurring.
Okay, just want to make sure I was understanding. Cool, thank you.
The staff really did try to increase those sales every time, and they did a lot of different ways to do that. They played Jeopardy, they created Wheel of Fortune, they did a bingo, so they really tried to sell those memberships in many different ways, which I thought was really creative of that staff. They did several different, they had a lot of different competitive different games that they played. There is one staff member who, she had a goal for herself every month to try to hit what her sales were. So she actually hit $200,000 in sales for memberships for herself. So if you think of a part-time person who barely works 20 hours a week, that's a lot. So kudos to her, she did a great job.
Talented.
We did go paperless for the rec center, that's pretty big. In those type of rec centers aren't usually paper with, you're always signing you're just always signing your life away, it seems like, when you register for something. So it was a pretty big deal for the rec center to go paperless. Another thing that the rec center really tried to do is have that customer contact. So if you go into the rec center, it's not just walk on by. They really tried to engage you and say, where are you going? How are you going swimming? Are you going to the weight room? Are you what are you coming in to do? So they really tried to engage those customers. So I thought that was really cool of the front desk staff to try to stop members and figure out where they were going and what they were doing. Front desk and admissions, just to kind of, we kind of geek out about things numbers and things that the front desk and the admissions that we take in. They completed 67,000, a little over 67,000 transactions at the front desk, so it's kind of neat. Their attendance was 151,000 people checked into the rec center, so on average, that's 12,650 times a month. So just things to think about. One thing that I do want to point out on this screen is, have you been to the Child Watch before? 11,754 children were watched in that Child Watch. Bless those staff. That's 56 kids a day. And though that Child Watch is only open from 8 to 2 and then 5 to 8, 5 days a week. So if you think about that, that's a lot of kids that go through that little area.
Yeah, it's a mad rush for our family to
Is it really?
To get there, yeah, a little before 8 to try to make sure we get a spot.
Yeah, and that doesn't even include the kids that are on the wait list. I mean, they're always on a wait list. There's a capacity in that room that we have to abide by, so we do keep a 1-to-10 ratio in there. So just thinking about that, it's a madhouse in there all the time. So they do push a lot of kids through there, and the staff just they watch a lot of kiddos. So that's just something to think about. They do play a lot of games in trying to, when we have a new program or we're trying to push something through that we're not quite sure how it's gonna go. The zombie run was an example of that. It was a new run that we were doing. We weren't sure how it was gonna go. The staff, when we first pushed it out, we barely were getting any registrations, and so it was a little questionable if it was even gonna go. And they started this little thing in the back, whereas if you sold a registration, you got to move the zombie above and above, and if you got to this certain point, then it was, okay, we might get a pizza party, or whoever sold the most registrations for the zombie, you got a cup of coffee, or we bought you a coffee or something of that nature. So we ended up getting to our goal of at least 100 registrations, and so whoever sold the most, we went out and bought them I think they got a human beat or a Ziggy's coffee. So they play different games like that or incentives. So 18,000 phone calls a year. That's a lot of phone calls. So just things to think about. We did, this year we brought in Nerf party. I don't know if anyone's having Nerf party at the rec center. We did get some new barriers, so if you want to have a Nerf party, I hear it's pretty epic now. Brought in an additional $2,750 in revenue for this year. We did 208 birthday parties. The Nerf parties brought in an additional 11. Overall room rentals 40, pool reservations 27. This year, one of our big goals was to do more of the EAP emergency action plans for this year. So we partnered with Larimer County Sheriff's Office, and we did a really huge training on the standard response protocol that the schools do. And we brought that into the rec center and did a big, they don't really call it active shooter training anymore, but we did that with all of our team and did a very intense training in that where we brought in the entire team. We did a couple where we actually had the guns go off and we all practiced what we were supposed to do in those different scenarios in each of the areas of the pool, the weight room, and where we were supposed to go and what the staff was supposed to do and how did they react. And it was pretty enlightening. A lot of staff were like, I don't remember what to do. So it was pretty neat to see, you know, who remembered what and who didn't. So we did a couple of those trainings, and then we went into, in the gymnasium, we did a couple how to stop the bleeds, if there was any mass shootings, and then also how to use some tourniquets. So it was a pretty big training for our staff, and then there's a picture there of all of us doing some brief debriefing with the Larimer County Sheriffs and the fire department outside. Not sure if you're familiar with, but we do have contracted programs that we do. We have contractors that we don't necessarily teach these programs or have the expertise to teach these programs. So if you look in the middle there, we have contractors like martial arts, pickleball, Challenger Sports, Crest Robotics. Those are contractors that come in and teach these programs to our people that register for them throughout our rec center. There is a split in these contracts, so the main revenue goes to them and then the town gets some of that revenue. So it's usually a 70-30 split or 60-40 split. However, the town also became partners with Berthoud Local as well as Wildfire Arts Center. These are town partners, and these are partners that we can't offer these type of programs. So instead of us hiring on a person to teach arts, or we just don't have the space, we don't have the capacity to be doing these, we've partnered with Wildfire and we've partnered with Berthoud Local, and these particular programs are held at their locations, and we take all the registrations, and then the funds and all that go to these particular centers. So Wildfire, we've been doing a partnership with them for almost 2 years. And then in 2024, we brought on Berthoud Local, and they have obviously brought in 242 participants with Wildfire. And then this year, 132, or last year, 132 participants with Berthoud Local. So these are organizations that were kind of needed some help, and we've kind of brought them back, and now they're doing very well and being very successful. So it's a good partnership all around. Any questions so far?
I have a question.
Mhm.
The slide that you had up on your EAP, your emergency action plan, and just the slides before it. So clearly there's a lot of people coming in and out of the rec center, and it's increasing with all the memberships and whatnot. Have you guys looked into or talked about like security, like soft security, monitoring that area, walking around in addition to whatever else you have, or security cameras? Just
We do. Every rec center camera or every front desk computer has cameras that are constantly being monitored, as well as in the back. Every staff member in the back has cameras that can be viewed at any time. We do have people actually walking around the rec center. You may not see them or know who they are, but they're walking around.
That's awesome. That's
So,
great.
yeah, they're there.
Okay.
They're in the evenings, we do have presence there as well. They're not necessarily security, people, but they're there.
Awesome. Thank you.
It may increase, they usually will increase a little bit more, during the summertime as kids are out of school, so. We have kind of what we call they're our monitor in the evenings, so they're there. Fitness. Fitness has been one of our biggest programs. I've seen this has exploded here. I've not seen fitness programs boom like it has here in Berthoud. It's crazy, which is amazing, and I think a lot of the kudos to go to our staff here. Jacqueline has really just done an amazing job with this area, and I kudos to her. She has just exploded this program. We have 879 people registered for our specialty classes, and what I mean by specialty classes, these are the paid classes. Not all of our classes are free. We have a selected few that do pay. These classes are what kind of covers our free classes. So fortunately, not all of them are free, but we do offer 22 classes that are free. So these ones are the paid classes. They are offsetting the ones that are free. We do have 5 personal trainers that are also, we offer quite a few personal training sessions. These are also covering some of those free classes. Right now we have 17,777 people attending our free group classes. So they're being utilized, they are being attended, and they are always full, always. And when they're full all the time, we're always looking at, do we need to add some, so we're still adding some here and there. Our Forever Fit classes are exploding, and so we did add one. I think we added one on Mondays. So that one's just now starting to become full again. So now we'll start looking at that and what we can do with that.
Okay, again, with the explosion of interest and growth and everything, do you feel like the rec center space is sufficient for your needs, or do you feel like at some point you're gonna hit a limit, and like, thoughts on that?
I think we still have room to expand. We're not 100% full. I mean, we can still look at different spaces and utilize those. Now it's looking at where can we move and what can we do. I mean, there's still a lot of time throughout the day that can be utilized. Whether or not people want those specific times, that's the next question. We did sell 413 personal training packages, which are huge. I've never seen a personal training take off like I have here. It's just unheard of. Usually you have 1 or 2 sessions that get sold, and personal training here has been one of the biggest sellers in Berthoud. So a lot, and what I'm seeing is a lot of these insurance packages now, which you should all check your insurance. They sometimes give you $500 to go towards personal training. So just FYI, check your insurance. Sometimes that does cover that stuff. We did introduce 4 new fitness classes and expanded 8 ongoing classes to allow more participants. She's also been really good about getting out in the community. She did on the first Saturday for the Berthoud Market, she brought in yoga to the park, and that was huge. She did a free yoga class, or it was chair yoga actually. So she brought in the chairs and she did a free yoga class over at the Berthoud Market, which was huge. They love that. She also started a cosmic pickleball, which I'll show you some pictures here down in a couple of slides here, which was huge. It actually generated 16 teams. People loved it. So we have another round coming up March 1st, and I imagine that will also be full. The zombie run was a new run for us this time, and we generated 131 adults and 95 youth. That was another huge program that definitely was a success, and we do have another one coming this year, 2025. It's called the Run Series. There'll be one on St. Patty's or around St. Patty's Day. And then there'll be a color run as well as the zombie run again. So there'll be 3, 5, technically almost 5Ks coming in 2025. So be on the lookout for those. A couple things that happened in 2023, we did get 3 new fitness pieces that came in, a glute drive, a squat rack, and a ab crunch machine. So those, we did a survey out to people in the weight room. We put out a QR code and people could vote on things that they wanted to see come in. And those were the 3 most popular items that they wanted. And so those are the items that we purchased. And then we also hosted Fitness in the Rockies. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But it's a program that CPRA, the Colorado Parks and Recreation Association, puts on, and it's a bunch of fitness people in the association that come and put together classes, and they come together and do different types of classes for that you can get certified and do different, give you ideas and what to do with different programs within fitness. So we hosted that, and then you can get certifications and stuff like that. Aquatics, our favorite, our beast. Aquatics, over 2,000 swim lessons were taught in participants ranging from 6 months to adults. We had 140 participants in CARA, which is our one of our programs, our swimming programs. We certified 37 babysitters. So I don't know if you know, we teach babysitting, certified babysitters and how to babysit. Over 150,000 gallons of water is circulated and treated and heated and maintained 24 hours, 7 days a week by our aquatic staff. Our aquatic staff train a minimum of 48 hours a year as a complete team. They do a lot of training. They meet once a month and they go over their lifeguarding skills, they go over customer service, they do first aid skills, teaching strategies, and they do a lot of team bonding. The average lifeguard will train 6 hours a month, and they may only work 10 to 12 hours a month. So that's 72 hours. And I do want to show you a little video. I will warn you, that's a little bit of trigger. It's a trigger warning. But this is something that the staff train for every month, and they train for this particular scenario. And this is the perfect scenario on what we want them to do. And they did it perfectly. And so this is a kiddo that does go underwater, so I'm gonna warn you. It's a little scary, but it's a great outcome. Okay, so if you're triggered by a drowning, then I suggest you don't watch. Okay?
Drag it over.
So you're gonna watch this little kiddo here. This is mom getting in the pool. It's the lifeguard here. But this is what we train for, and this is what we do. Notice he ain't coming up. Keep watching. Did anyone count how long that took?
Super fast.
Super fast.
I didn't even see that lifeguard.
Yeah, so you see this lifeguard over here. I'll get my mouse over there. So mom's still getting in the pool. He sinks. He doesn't even have time to he doesn't bounce up at all. So she's been watching him. She knows. So she's watching. She gets not even to 1. She doesn't even get to 3. This guy, he's not panicking. He stops. He keeps going. He's watching in the pool. he does not worry about her. He knows she's got it. The whistle blows. There's another guard that's running now, not running, but quickly walking around the pool, and she's going to help her. He continues to watch, and he's now got the whole pool. He's not helping her. He continues to watch the whole pool. And that's what we wanted to see. And they did such a perfect job here that it was just so phenomenal. And they worked as a team. He stops, he doesn't deal with her, he continues to watch the pool. And it was just such a great job, and they did it so well as a team that it was just phenomenal. And I wished I could put up the other camera of watching her go around and how they work together, and you could I wish we had sound and you could hear the whistles blowing and how they worked, and it was just so phenomenal. And so we brought this up at our last staff meeting, and we just all watched it together, and it was just amazing. It was like so perfect, and so everything that they did here was just spot on. So unfortunately, what we were seeing here was the kiddo going down, but what they did and how they did it, they all worked as a team, and the practicing that we did and all that they did was great. So all that training and everything that we've done, it all paid off. So kudos to the staff. And they also do a lot of fun stuff. They went to the lifeguard games at Waterworld. Bertha took 10 guards this year. They competed and they got 5th out of state, or in the state, excuse me. They, out of the group, they had the fastest lifeguard for male and female. One of our own, Amelia Hughes, who has worked with us since we opened in 2021, she took 3rd, so that was actually really exciting. She still works for us today. She's great. And then we did collaborate with the Bertha Library. You can see Cheyenne, our coordinator, there reading to the kids for Safety Week. She was reading them a book, Clifford's Safety Day or something like that. So trying to get involved in that community, which is awesome. Youth sports, we had 356 participants, more additional 356 participants this year than we had in 2023, so that was exciting. In total, we had 2,494 youth participating in our recreation programs across 22 of our programs. We hosted 515 games this year, not including games that were not officiated. I'm gonna point that out. There's anything else that I want to. On average, our littles programs, which are our 4 and 5 year olds, on average we had about 42 kids on this per season. So that's a lot of little kiddos. We talk a lot about youth sports. It's one of our biggest programs. So, and then just some part-time hours, how many hours they work. Adult sports, there's that Cosmic Pickleball. A lot of people dressed up, and we really put some neon tape down and really tried to make that fun. So it was we're trying some new pop-up adult sports to try to get those adults out, to really try to get them into our facility. This year we did create Cornhole League and then that Cosmic Pickleball. So those are programs that did come out of those pop-up leagues or pop-up tournaments. So now they're actually becoming leagues for 2025. Adult soccer was a new program that we also brought in for 2024. We did have 15 teams that participated in that over the 2 seasons. So that was another big program that came out of that. So the adults are starting to pop out of the woodworks. Active adult 50 plus, this is such a fun age group, and they are actually starting to also come out of the woodworks. We did hold 4 sessions of pickleball. We introduced a women's league, and we have now hosted 33 teams over 4 seasons. So the ladies love the pickleball. We also have been going up to the Candlelight Theater, and they really enjoy going up there and seeing those Candlelight Theater dinner shows. We had 78 people participate in going up to those shows in 2024. We also have a pretty large group that go over in the party room and meet 3 to 4 days a week and play cards and games. And that has turned into quite the little group. There's about 15 to 20, sometimes 25 that go in and play cards and games and meet over there and have a little social hour. Let's see. We also do have, I think, right now we're trying to, we have a volleyball group that's now meeting that goes every Thursday morning. That is, there was probably like 5 to 6 that were meeting every Thursday, and now it's grown, and now we have 4 teams that are getting ready to go and create a league over now with the, did I put that in there? Shoot. There's a league over in Loveland that's now trying to, they're gonna join this league over in Loveland, and they will now start to compete in volleyball. And they will join that league, and they will start competing around the northern area for senior volleyball. So that's a new program that they'll start to join, and we will travel. We'll take them and they'll travel around and go do that here in 2025. Special events, obviously we had quite a few special events that we do throughout. One thing that didn't go well this 2024 that we did try was the Kids After Dark. That was just not a successful event that we tried to do. We had a big competition in Loveland. So if you don't know if your kids have ever been there, but that's a huge production and we can't compete. We saw and that's not something we're gonna tackle here right now. We'll try it again, but to shut down our facility for the minimal kids that we were getting just wasn't financially working for the rec center. But we do have a lot of other things that we're doing, so other things are working, but that one wasn't. Father-daughter dance is still going really strong. Zombie Run was a huge success, and yeah, winter and spring craft show, man, that thing's a beast, but it's going really well. One of our biggest events. Marketing and sponsorships, we did combine our brochure in 2024 for the first time. We went from 4 brochures down to 3, and we combined the spring and summer. We also created a trifold brochure, and we also put it into Spanish this year. So instead of just being in English, we did convert that to Spanish. And we created a recreation header page and put it into, redesigned the recreation website, basically. Oh, sorry, Melissa. Facility maintenance, we created 196 work orders. We've redone, we have 520 tasks that we created in 2024. We've created a preventative maintenance program. So we really do try to keep up on everything and keep that facility looking in the best shape that it can be. We did replace that weight room floor this year, and we've implemented quarterly safety inspections. I think I'm done. Any questions?
A lot of information.
Sorry.
No, you're
We
good.
did a lot
You've got a lot of
last
numbers.
year.
This is great.
Yes.
Not a question, but just a comment. I mean, obviously, all the numbers kind of speak for themselves. Like, at least my family, we probably,
You guys
amongst
look
all of us, spend probably 5 days a week at the
Mhm.
rec center in some shape or form doing different activities. And like kudos to you, like your staff's incredible. They're
Thank
always professional. I was a lifeguard growing up, and like we were not as good as you guys are. Like, you guys are, the lifeguards really take things seriously, and just really appreciate all the work that you're doing, and
Yeah.
I think it shows, so.
Thank you.
I wanted to share a compliment about your communications when you've had closures or you're doing maintenance and everything. It's really great that you give people an update ahead of time,
Thank you.
so they're not, driving over there and finding something closed.
Thank you.
So good job on that communication.
Thank you. That was one of the reasons why we picked that software, because it was so easy to communicate anything out. That software, you can just select anybody that's a member, and you can push communication out so easily. So it is working.
Actually, that was a question. Speaking of communications, like, you all have done so much, and I feel like you should showcase it. Is there an opportunity to work with your communications gal on staff to like put together like a one-pager kind of summary, just highlighting some stats that you have here, just to, you know, push out to, on Facebook or wherever?
Yeah,
Because that would
absolutely.
be awesome, just to.
To the
show it.
town or?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we can do that.
That'd be nice.
Any other comments? Questions?
Sorry to take up so much time, there was a lot.
No, this is great.
No, that was good.
Yeah.
I'm glad I wanted Amanda to come here and share, because I knew the recreation, we don't talk about all the programs and stuff that go on. I knew they do a ton over there, so.
Thanks, Keith.
It's, yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, well done.
I didn't know all this.
All right, move on to the next discussion item, outdoor pool presentation.
Okay. All right, so let's run in. Okay, so as you all know, we've been in the process. I think we had our first meeting in December with the consultants. We got something back in early January from them. We gave some comments, and then we kind of just got this back this week again. So that's how quickly they've been trying to move and work on it. So with the pool concept and how it's got to where we are now, we have the port survey that was done last year for outdoor pool, and then the amenities part of that pool, like the lap lanes. One thing I want to note on here is the diving board, which in multiple surveys it's towards the bottom in popularity. We don't know if that really correlates, if it's the adults doing the surveys that don't care about diving boards, but we think kids really like diving boards. So yeah, if there's any,
Can I just make a comment on the survey?
yeah,
Like, I appreciate all the data you guys put together, but like, I think you gotta take it for what it is, which is, it just got posted on Facebook and it wasn't like sent out to all the households where you're getting like a statistically valid sample like we got on the other survey. So that might be some of it, is like, it could be a certain group that's responding to, right?
mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
probably have some bias in your survey, so.
Okay, and that's, so like that, this was the port survey, right?
This was the port, okay, yeah, that was the port survey. Okay.
This was the port one on the left, and then this is the Facebook one on the right. And the
Gotcha.
Facebook one, I think I know it's not as official. And I think it had 800 some responses still. I think it's the highest rated survey we put out.
The pool one?
Yeah. But it's just in both surveys, diving boards shows up. Well,
Gotcha, yeah.
so that's where we're like, it's going. And you had your hand up.
I do. Speaking from the youth side,
Yeah.
for an outdoor pool, I would love a diving board. I miss, well, I don't miss because we have the rock in the Berthoud Rec, but I love, even as a kid, I love jumping off the diving board, and I still do now. So I'm just saying, it might be biased.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity for a youth program. I don't know if there's been any interest expressed in that, but where I grew up, there was always a swim team and a diving team. So you could start teaching kids at an early age diving basics.
Yeah,
I would
I'm
say
just-
anecdotally, like just at the pools, like at the Sunset Pool, there's always a line for the slide, or for the diving boards. There's always 25 kids in line waiting to go off the diving board. So, I mean, and when we had the Berthoud pool, town pool, and they would open it, they would close that deep end, and then they would open the diving board for 15 minutes, and then they would close the diving board and open the deep end, and so we could go back and forth, and it was always a popular amenity. I think it's something that kids definitely want to use. And I mean, I think the diving board is like fifth or sixth on the list if you actually see, like, because it goes up to the 5. And so if you actually take away, like, locker rentals is above it and concessions is tied with it. And so I mean, I think it's kind of deceiving. Like, if you had it actually in order, I think it would be like 5th or 6th on the list. Am I reading that right?
I think so.
I
I
see.
think it's,
Yeah.
it's like confusing, because I
Right.
took this survey too. And it's not like, rate all of the, the diving board slides, like which of those are your favorite? It's like, yeah, you're competing against outdoor restrooms, of course I want outdoor, of course I want shade.
Walker Reynolds.
So it looks like it's way down at the bottom, but if you're, I think some of the questions for me, at least when I took the survey, were a bit strange. Like just the wording, I think could have been.
Okay, that's good
So-
feedback.
Yeah.
That's
That
why I
helps.
feel like
The
it looks down, but it's maybe
Since
not
we
as
don't
bad
have
as it
one
looks.
inside, like-
That's perfect for some clarification. I mean, we wanted a diving board in there. and we're
Well,
like,
it's sort of
"Yeah."
apples to apples in terms of
Yeah.
activities versus
You have
amenities.
like necessities and then you have
Yeah.
fun things.
We have
Okay.
needs and wants.
I think what we're saying is we want to dive.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, I have 3 daughters, all of them, I mean, that number one, yeah, love swimming, all love trying to jump off of something. So, yeah, absolutely. And myself too. God, I
And to
love
Callie's
that diving board.
Sorry. To Callie's point, we do have a dive team at Berthoud High. So we have a swim and
And
dive.
the middle school has diving also.
Oh, that's right, they do. Yep, they have diving at the middle school as well, so. There's definitely,
Is that just a 1 meter board? I know it's probably different boards, but this would
uh,
probably just be a
yes,
1
it's
meter
a low
board,
board, it's a,
3 feet off. Yeah.
yeah.
We
Yeah,
would
it's
not
like
put
a
a
standard.
10-foot diving board.
Yeah.
It's not,
No,
no,
we don't need that.
Come on, high dive, please.
Yeah. I love those.
We're ready to cross a banana.
And we have our one and only diver from Berthoud High is competing at the state dive meet on Monday, so
Oh, cool.
we're gonna qualify for state.
When listed in the survey as like I can't remember the question, something what a pool in the area would do you recommend or your favorite pool or something like that. So Winona and Loveland, Sunset and Rain Dance were probably the most popular responses we received. So taking kind of all that and putting it together into our space, a pool like Winona kind of fit the area that we have available at the south side of the recreation center right here. And so that's what's kind of blended that into this option here, which again, as staff, we have our own comments for it. It didn't come back as exactly how we wanted it as well, but this is what we're working with today. So this is on the south side. It would utilize the pipes that were taken out of the rec center and use the current pumps and filtration or something that we already have involved. We're trying to do as many cost saving measures as we can with it.
What's the lane length there?
Yours.
Okay. I couldn't see the number.
Mhm.
Okay.
And so one thing to note, the slides, this is like a phased thing, so it's kind of showing a little of everything. The slides are not included in the price I'm about to share with you. As a base price, we're trying to make the pool be around $6 million to work within the budget that we have set for it. Not even all of this is, I guess I'll just share, okay. Just showing the pool with not counting the cabanas down here and the lawn, not counting the slides, we're at 7.5 million. So we're pretty basic right now and we're already over the budget that we'd like to be, considering some other town projects going on. So we are trying to dial that back into 6, and we know having a grass area and shade over here is probably a necessity that needs to stay in there. There's some shade right here as well. So the slides are phased. These are just, we're trying to say, hey, in the future, there's a spot where slides can go. And so that's why they're shown right now, but those would not be expected to be part of the first phase of the pool being built. So we would expect a pool, we'd expect some type of restrooms out here, and that's to do with the code and how many restrooms and people that can actually go inside the rec center to use the restroom, and how many restrooms you need outside as well. So that's all per code. We're talking about I mean, there's a lot to get into here, like, okay, are we gonna have people come and enter through here and have a gate through here in this entry, or are we just gonna have them coming through the rec center? Those are all like programming things that the staff's still talking about that can bring the cost down. So there's these buildings, these facilities. The pool, we're trying to make it a multi-user, multi-use pool. And so as you enter the pool, it's zero depth entry. Those are great for little kids. One of the drawbacks you have when you don't have like a specific kiddie pool, whatever. If there's an accident in the pool, restroom accident in the pool, the whole pool shuts down, right? So making another kid pool is not working in the budget right now to separate those two and having them on different systems. So that is one of the drawbacks of not having their own specific pool. So it would have the zero depth entry. It would go into about 3 feet. And this one actually describes as the, oh great. So yeah, we'll get back to that one in a minute. It goes down to about 3 feet through here. And then from here, where the cursor's at, I think you guys can see that. It then starts moving into 4 feet and then 5 feet out into the lane pool. We do believe this area is a little narrow right now, so we'd like this to open up. We don't like this U-shaped thing that was put in here as well. It's kind of cut. We kind of like it to all be one big thing. We'd like this to open up. This area of the pool is something that can be programmed for fitness classes, and that's the size we're looking to do. Amanda and then Luke are aquatics. I mean, he's really good. He's has tons of experience with pool size and how you can program the pool and what you need to have a successful pool. I mean, he knows everything about everything in the area.
Is there some reason for that little like U-shaped or hook thing?
No.
To create a smaller space between the zero entry and the deeper part, or?
We didn't get any feedback yet from them on it, but no,
Consultant getting creative.
Yeah.
that's exactly it. So then you have the 6-lane, 25-yard lap pool. The slide on this, or not slide, the diving board is supposed to be on the north side. It's not supposed to be on the south, because if it's up here, that creates like a diving area that's like this. Because this does drop down to 12 feet, 2 inches, I think, right now. And then that leaves some lap lanes to be open at the same time, as I understand it, so. Let's see. So getting into the budget-wise, this is what it's looking like right now. Again, if we're gonna try to balance this with the Arboretum project that could possibly take place and some other town things going on, 6 million is closer to where this needs to come in. And that's the number we've been trying to get them to stick at. So above 7.5 million to add more things, that's the water slide. That's in the deep end. Since you have a deeper end, you can add a climbing wall and things like that on the outside if you want to. The winter cover, which is still a conversation of whether you drain the pool or you cover the pool type thing over the winter. If we were to take that crusher fines area and make it totally concrete, making the lap lanes even wider, which the currently designed lap lanes are 7.6. The current lap lanes in the rec center are 7 feet. So there's discussion on whether they can just be 7 feet out here as well, 7 feet wide. And then the lawn and cabana expansion. So in that 7.5, this is not included. There are some shades shown here. I'm assuming that's included. Slides not included. And then I think those are kind of the main ones that would deal with the pool amenities. So let me get this to work. So really get into how the depths move throughout the pool. 0 depth, 3.5, 4. From what I understand, once you start getting above 4, you really aren't, there's not a lot of people that can play deeper than that.
Yeah, like 3.5 feet. I mean,
And that little boy was in 4.5.
I'm
And
not a
then-
serious swimmer, but as far as 4 feet, is that enough for a legitimate lap pool?
It's enough on one end for sure.
For depth,
Yeah.
Oh,
but-
yeah.
Yeah.
you
you'll
can
be
do
fine,
3.5
'cause
feet and be fine.
You'd start on the other end where those blocks are.
So turn
You
turn
dive
off the
in.
wall 4 feet.
Where the
Yeah.
Not
blocks
as
are,
deep
yeah.
enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just curious. Thank you.
And then this shows the diving board in the correct location. It kind of shows the well. I think these are the areas you'd have to, keep people out while the diving's going on. But then that should allow these 2 lanes to stay open during that. And then the whole thing drops down to 12 right there. So, I mean, again, one of our questions we have as staff is, do we have to keep it 12 feet deep all the way over here? Can that come up a little bit? Try to save some costs there as well.
Is there a reason why you can't go down to 10 feet in the diving board area because you need 12? I grew
We're-
up at
that's a
pools that were
clarification.
10 feet deep and you could save some water, maybe, just going to 10. I don't know if
It's
rules have changed, but
Excavation costs too, legitimately. Yeah. So
They'll follow the model health model code or whatever it is.
which is 12.
I think it's 11. 6.
6 maybe? Yeah, it's another question we have written down because
That's what the.
I guess I'm saying, I don't know if you need to go to 12.
The
If
model
there, if
health code.
whatever
is-
code you put in.
Yeah, we'll follow, that's what they recommend is to follow that. The model health code.
I have some questions on design, and maybe it's jumping ahead that the details aren't worked out yet. But I'm wondering if they have, I'm assuming they're consulting with people who have designed swim training pools or competition pools.
all the pools, these are the designers that did our current recreation center aquatics facility, and they've done.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is
Yeah.
because, and I'd be interested to know if anybody else has had the same experiences. In competition and training pools, the walls for turning are supposed to be flat for flip turns. And the people who design, I know it's a point of pride because of the HVAC in there, but the current indoor pool doesn't work for flip turns. When you flip, you crack your ankles on, it's contoured. I mean, I'm just saying, I would encourage them to check that kind of, what needs to happen in a pool that's meant for swim training or competition. I don't know how swim team has experienced that.
I would have to defer to Audrey or someone on the
Yeah,
swim team on
yeah.
that. She's not mentioned anything, and she does train in the rec center pool.
You can do a foot turn at Shell Park, it's 3.5 feet. It's a flat.
Yeah, I think it's maybe on the other end that has the
Yeah.
contoured gutter. It's just a really bad design for lap swimming.
Oh, I see, like if you're flipping and you go to.
If you're
feet
flipping and
against-
the wall's
I
not
see what
flat,
you're
so
saying.
your ankles crack on the gutter.
I see.
I don't know if anybody's seen the new aquatic center in Arvada. It's so fantastic. I'm just saying that there's standards out there for pools that are gonna be used for training or competition. That, I would hope the designers consider it for lap swimming activity. And the other thing, I don't know if it can be considered in the budget, is assuming there's gonna be lap swim hours part of the day, they need lane markers that get rolled out for lap swim hours.
I think that's what these squares are on the right side. See these?
Where the blocks are.
I don't think those aren't blocks, because those are on lane, well, I guess those are blocks.
These would be the diving blocks, yeah, right here.
Those are diving blocks. But there'd be lane lines in there, I mean, obviously you'd have to have.
No, they're floating markers
Yeah.
that absorb
Yep.
the waves.
Yeah, because we've talked about storing those reels of them when they get taken in and out. I can't remember why there's just the diving blocks on the one side too, yeah.
Just the ones.
just a question on the, going on the same lines on the competition training aspect. The thing that popped out to me immediately was the 25 yards versus 25 meters.
Mhm.
Like pretty much all competitions are meters. So,
So the programs that this pool would be used for is Cara, which is yards. And Chassa High School is yards as well.
are they?
We swim meters. We swim all meters.
How do they, well, then why do they label it yards?
They don't.
I got the, like,
Like
this,
I can pull up Chassa, the state schedule, and it's all meters.
I mean, that's what I printed out. I printed out,
Everything at the swim competition on Monday is meters. That's all we swim is
Yeah,
meters
that's-
in Chassa in high
the
school.
Chassa State Championships, 200 yard medley relay.
That could have been based on where
So-
they were located, but
That's why, those are
Regard-
questions for sure.
regardless, my
This is the
point is
Chassa State
it's
Championships.
a lot funner to swim in a meter pool because you don't have to do as many flip turns. You don't have to, you know, the laps are longer, so you get more length in your swim too, so, I guess we probably need to figure out what the standard is for competition, but
A lot of research has been pointing to yards.
like all
You
the
might be
Olympic,
right, I might be wrong. I just always thought it was meters. But I'm looking at this site.
So like almost,
We did a lot of research.
Sir, what
all
was-
Pointed to yards.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
They don't build 25-meter pools.
I mean, we swim in 25-meter pools, I know we do, but
The new standard for all competitions, I've been involved in 25 yards.
The newest ones, like in Arvada, they're 50 meters with a moving wall because the races, the competitions
yeah, the 50
internationally
meters.
are all, will still be in meters. You know, it's a whole European standard. If we have any serious young kids, you know,
they're gonna
it's
race in yards until they go to college.
in the US, yeah.
And these the pool that is being designed and built is not that yet. I mean, that's usually when you go to college, that's when you're getting to that. But the way that this pool, it's not being designed, it's more of the yards still right now. So that was, according to the Chassa rules, it's still yards. Is what
That's
we're
it.
finding
Now,
still.
and we know, once you get to like 50, those tend to all be meters.
Meters.
Me,
But when you're
Yeah.
doing 25, we keep getting 25 yard. Right? There's a handful of pools that are 25 meter in the area. I think Longmont might have one or something, but what we're getting, since like this is gonna be Cara swim teams and stuff like that, all those races are in yards.
Well, and that's significantly longer. 25 yards is significantly longer than 25 meters, right? 3.3.
Opposite.
Opposite, is it?
I think it's like
It's the
12
opposite,
feet.
meters longer than the yard?
Ends up being 7 feet.
Oh, it is.
It's like 12 feet.
Right, in a 25-yard pool.
I
Okay.
was trying to actually Google that, but
Yeah, I was like getting through.
I actually don't have service in here, so.
I've heard people say, like, they built the rec center wrong. It's short of 3 feet,
Mhm.
which
is
that makes
yards.
sense if people were expecting 25
Gotcha,
meters. I
gotcha.
guess, I always thought like, why on earth would they have built it a few short feet or a few feet short? Like, that doesn't make sense. But that makes sense if you guys built yards and people, like, I've just heard that from like competition swimmers. Like, my strokes are messed up because the pool's a few
Yeah.
feet too short. And so that makes sense that
So Mountain
That
View
pool is
High
all
School is all
on
meters.
yards.
Like Mountain View High School's pool that our kids all compete in is meters. I don't know if that
And that
matters.
may be the one.
Pardon?
That may be the one.
Well, that's where our high school practices, and
Yeah.
that's our home pool. It was a 25-meter pool at Mountain View. So, and that's a 25-meter. I know we compete at VMAC, which is in North Glen, and that's a 50-meter pool that they have a moving bar,
Yeah.
so they can make it a 25-meter pool. But that's where all of those are meter pools. So,
Yeah, 1 meter equals 1.09 yards, so.
yeah, so it's not a huge
educating myself.
difference,
Thank
but
you.
it is.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
when
it's
you're
closer
swimming
than,
at-
closer than I thought it was, to be
Right, if
honest,
you're
yeah.
swimming a 25-yard
Yeah, makes sense.
versus 25-meter stretch and you know that you have 20 strokes.
Oh,
you're gonna
absolutely.
cross
Once the
pool.
muscle memory is
Yeah.
kicked in and you just
Yeah.
throws it off that, oh, no,
But
that
I
makes
guess
complete
you
sense.
could argue either way.
Swimming, it really does add up.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think if you're talking about a lot, like, people going in the mornings or afternoons or whatever, just to swim laps, I think it is nicer to have the meter pool for sure. And I don't know with the Kara piece, I mean, would anyone be sad if it was a meter versus a yard, or is there really a difference
Yeah,
ultimately?
what's the
Like,
downside about having it?
Yeah,
be meters
what's the
versus-
downside? Cause
The
I see more downside in the yard pool personally.
The only
than a
thing I
meter.
would say is that you probably should look into what Kara competes in.
Kara competes in yards.
So then we probably need to make it a Kara competing pool, because if you make it a meter pool and then you bring Kara kids in, it's not the right length for that competition, and they probably have rules around it.
But
that's how
what is who's the audience for the pool? Is it the,
No, I'm
Is
just saying if we wanna
But
have,
the only competitions that will be in that pool is Kara,
right,
if we're,
but if you're talking
Yeah.
about just daily use, I mean, it's probably, you know, a different group.
yeah.
understood, but I'm saying if you make it a meter pool and we can't use it for competitions for Kara, then we've completely,
That's the
Negated.
question, right?
Yeah.
Cause ideally you wanna accommodate both.
right, but so if you have a yard pool, everyone can swim laps in it no matter what. If you make it a meter pool and we can't hold Kara competition, then we've completely ousted that piece of why we're having the pool.
Agreed.
So I think everybody can swim in the yard pool, is that fair to say?
That competition schedule, as far as times of year, what's the,
So, I mean, Kara's year round. So
okay,
we have Kara swim through the rec center year round, and they compete, but we have to travel in the winter.
okay.
And
So
we
that is the
can't-
rec center, that's, okay, cool,
Mhm.
thank you,
And that's the program we offer.
cool.
But aren't Kara swimmers now using Mountain View Pool and going to meets where
In a
pools are
meter pool?
in
Berthoud High
meters?
School is using Mountain View.
But not. the-
Right, but I mean,
not
do
our
Kara
program.
kids go to pools for competitions that are 25 meter, 50 meter pools?
That's what I'm saying, that's why I think we need to ask that question.
Yeah.
We need to
Because if it's a meter pool, can we hold competitions for Kara? Or do they,
Kara swims yards. That's I don't know if they'll only swim yards, I can find that out, but to my knowledge, they swim yards, and I believe they only go to pools with yards.
That's worth finding
But I
out,
don't know.
because, you know, some teams have to be versatile. And they have to take the kids where the meets are.
Right, and I know that
imagine-
right now, our pool, I think it has to be a 6-lane yard pool, and we can't host any meets because we don't have a 6-lane pool. So if it's not a yard pool, we can't host it,
For sure.
for sure. So if it's a meter pool, we won't be able to do it. Which
So-
is one of it's a pretty good program for us.
I just didn't know if it completely negated, I was just trying to think of all the pools that we swam at for Kara and trying to,
Yeah, I know.
in my brain go through if any of them are a meter. Is Winona, do you know? Cause we swam at Winona. I don't know. There's a lot of pools. I think it would just be worth the ask.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think everyone's dove into it a lot, and it just keeps coming up. Like, the meters is what you get into once you start getting like professional or college or
Yeah.
something like that. Like, everything under that, all the Google research is like yards is the most common, and that's for everything. So, that's why we landed on yards, and it's definitely, it's 7 feet shorter, so it's cheaper as well.
Can I ask what the cost difference is, or if
Don't
you-
have that yet.
No, not for that, changing subjects.
Okay.
If you've looked into having a little kiddie pool versus having, like, to the point about the closing down the entire pool, or
I-
what would it cost to do that, or even if
So-
you took out part of the zero entry, or, what's the cost for having a kiddie?
Yeah, I don't know how if all the plumbing works out or something when you do that.
I think you'd have to have a separate, I think they said you'd have to have a separate filtration system, so it wouldn't go up.
And that created like a whole new room out here to house all that filtration stuff as well. So,
If there were something that happened in the indoor pool or the outdoor pool, because the systems are connected, would it shut all of the aquatics down completely?
she is better versed in that because rec center pools are somehow separate. It's all the same system. How does that work at the rec center when a kid has an accident in a pool?
Does it shut down everything, or does it shut down just the pool that had that happen?
Just, well, if it's a, it depends if it's in a body of water that has its own filtration, it'll shut down that particular pool.
So how does that work at the rec center? Is it all one filtration system?
So like the zero depth and that lazy river and that activity pool, that's all one body of water. So if something happens in that, it shuts that whole system down as well as that slide because it's all one system.
And then the deep pool is
The
what?
lap pool is separate and the spa is separate. So those could stay open
Okay,
because
so
they're
that
separate.
if something happened in there, it wouldn't shut down out here.
No,
That would be separate.
yeah, those are separate.
Cause I mean, that happens.
It happens.
You know what happens? So that would be kind of a shame if one blowout had to blow out everyone's day, right? So along those lines, like I understand we got the whole budget and we gotta save money and all that, and I'm sure there's ways to do that. But is there a reason why, like Keith, you mentioned like trying to balance the arboretum with the pool? Is there any openness? And I don't know the answer, but is there any openness to the board and just pushing one or the other back a little bit so you do have the budget to do the things you wanna do? For example, doing the, like say you wanna have a kiddie pool but costs a little more, could you just plan for it and push things back a little bit? Like, is there any openness to doing that so you don't have to like make cuts and then regret not having certain things?
I definitely think there's probably openness. I think overall, when this is all figured out, the board will have to sort through that. So they're getting to see this next week. Start on their kind of leading us in a direction. So if there's like a total recommendation from Port for probably should look into having a kiddie area.
I mean, do you have any idea how often that? Weekly, daily?
Not daily, but it happens.
How long does it shut the pool down for?
If it's solid, it's an hour. If it's not, it's 24.
24 hours?
I'm trying to think of the old pool because it was just one thing, and I wasn't involved with aquatics, but
They had a separate square.
it didn't have.
They had a separate square, yeah.
It
They
was
had
only
like,
like a foot deep.
yep, it had like the main pool and it came around and then there was a square right there by the locker rooms that was like, just had a wall in between it and the regular pool. But it was separate and it was only like a foot deep or something, or 18 inches.
I don't remember that.
I swear.
I was thinking the same thing, but maybe I am imagining it, but
Hold on,
I was thinking that.
Like, I think it's worth looking into a kiddie pool, like, just, it can be really small, just like a little rectangle, but it's a great place for moms and little babies to hang out and congregate. And then, you know, you minimize risk of everyone kind of having, so if that means cutting back on something else, I'd be interested in seeing what that looks like or what the cost would be, because I think it might be worth it for the user experience too.
Well, yeah, and could you get just, I mean, the zero depth is nice, but just swap one for the other.
Yeah, if there's a kiddie pool, you don't need the zero depth entry and also the kiddie pool, yeah.
I mean, I guess, yeah.
It would be a nice consideration for adult swimmers. I live in Heritage Ridge and I can tell you, there's almost one poop accident a week and people are absolutely enraged about it. They're not fast about fixing it, but having people like in the summer get their swim time taken away because of baby poop it's not great PR. It doesn't make people happy.
And there's only so many days in the summer, so
There-
if you've got a
right.
24-hour shutdown,
Yeah. I mean, shared water between babies and adult swimmers, I just think it's not the most practical thing.
I will add a kiddie pool in there. Do we want to open up for public comment? Right now, real quick?
Sure. Are you done with the information piece? I mean, like you.
Yeah, and then we can come back and keep circling around, but.
Public comment?
I have a few minutes. So my name's Bill Hyman. I've for a little over 2 years. I'm a lap swimmer. I've been lap swimming since I swam for Colorado State, back in 1953 to 57. So I don't know anything about diving. I'm just going to talk about swimming. The Berthoud Rec Center is a really outstanding place. I mean, I was just thrilled to watch that being built and to experience it. But when I walked in and saw 3 lanes, I said, you got a problem. And it is a problem. I swim 30 laps twice a week, and then I do a personal training session once a week. So I'm there quite a bit. And this is not a criticism of anything you can do differently. You just don't have the lanes. But the lanes are used for water and life-saving training. They're used for water aerobics. They're used for, believe it or not, swim lanes or swim lessons. And I've seen a couple times where people have come in with kids who are on swim teams, and they need a place to practice. And so that takes up a lane. When you only have 3 lanes, it just isn't enough. And I guess I get anxiety every time I come. Am I going to get a lane or am I not going to get a lane? I'm only there half an hour, but it's still, I think, a minus for the facility. So as you think about building another 6-lane pool, a competition pool with blocks and all that, it needs to be out, it needs to be year-round. It just absolutely has to be year-round. I think you're wasting your money a lot of money, if you build another outdoor or an outdoor facility. It's not that hard. I experimented with a lot of different ways to cover pools. I would not go the route of bubbles and this, that, and the other thing, especially with the winds here. I designed a pool in a private club in South Carolina, and we tried a number of different ways to cover it in the wintertime. They're just a nuisance, and they're a pain in the ass for the staff. So why not do an open air pavilion, okay? Which it serves as a leisure pool and as a lap pool. So you put a roof over it, you put garage door type walls. So you open it up in the winter, you close it, or open it up in the summer and close it in the winter. And you've got then 9 lanes to swim in. 6 lanes during the summer when everybody has pools of their own, or they have homeowner association pools where they swim. It just doesn't make any sense not to have a winter, if you're gonna build, expensive money, to have it usable in the wintertime. And I think it's an inexpensive, or can be an inexpensive thing to do. And then you open up in the summer, you put lounge chairs around, you've got the same thing really as you almost have really an outdoor pool. It just makes all the sense in the world to me to do it that way. And you've got the space, as I understand it, the plumbing is in on the lawn out there. So I had thought, I didn't realize you were gonna make a competition pool. So it doesn't, I just looked up the regs. It's 4 to 12 feet. If you're going off the blocks and making turns and so on and so forth. And the person I talked to, it is 25 yards. And I've been swimming for a long time. I've swum all over the place, all kinds of pools. I've taught life saving and water safety. I mean, you name it. And it's a year-round thing. I mean, for me, it's fitness. For me, it's staying alive. And it works. And it's more and more popular. Everybody's into fitness and not everybody's into swimming because they didn't learn how to swim right when they were kids. But it's not hard to teach kids, and it's going on at the rec center. So that's my thought. It's based on these 2 years' experience. And you guys are in charge. I think you have a real asset with the 6-lane pool with a cover on it.
Is it feasible, I mean, I know other places in the state have outdoor pools that aren't covered and people still use them in the winter. As a swimmer, is that something you would use?
You know, in the Few Island Club in South Carolina, the pool I wrote the specs for, we gave up on bubbles. And yes, we swam year round, but that's a different climate.
Yeah.
And we had a blanket, two-piece blanket, so it covered 2 lanes. And we used that when we needed it. Here, what I experienced with weather and wind and everything else, I think it'd be hard to do.
Can I just
Plus,
add-
the other problem you're gonna have is water temperature. The
Yeah.
pool in South Carolina that we put together, we had heating and cooling. Because in summertime, it just gets too freaking hot. The water needs to be 80 to 82 degrees for competitions and for leisure swimming. And it's hard to maintain. The pool I've been in that does it year round wonderfully well, the Steamboat Springs. And that's a hot springs pool. Yes.
I was gonna mention Steamboat, also Denver Athletic Club is open year round. It's open every day when the temperature's above 15 degrees. And I'm sure they spend a lot of energy, and it's a little cooler than 82. And they have lane reservations, and, you know, I had to stay there for a month when a family member was in the hospital near Cherry Creek, and it was full all day long, from 7 in the morning till 9 p.m. with lap swimmers. And it was year round. It was really pretty fabulous. So it can be done, but it's, yeah, of course, it's not that energy efficient to be heating a pool outside in the winter. And just to your point about indoor swimming, well, I've mentioned before in this committee that I moved my membership to Chilson, so I know I have a lane. You know, if I set aside an hour a day to swim, I want to make sure if I'm going to go there, I can swim. But there are people that prefer outdoor swimming just for the air quality. Some people find indoor swimming, too hot, too claustrophobic. So I think something that could be open, at least in the summertime, it's nice. And I know the teenagers would probably like to go to the outside pool.
If you got the doors open all the way around, all you have is something above you. The only other way you can do it, I think, would be windscreens, and you're still gonna burn a lot of energy. So, I don't know.
It's not the
That's-
first time we've sort of talked about indoor versus outdoor.
Well, you got such a beautiful facility there, and why on earth they didn't put 3 more lanes, I don't know.
That's a whole
I
nother
mean-
topic.
Okay,
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Did you have something? Okay. I was just curious, because some pools have 8 lanes, so thoughts on that? Like, is this too small? Are we gonna regret 6 lanes?
well, if I were doing it, I'd do 8.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. One, if you want to use 6 competitive lanes, you've got warm up and cool up lanes on either side. I've been in a lot of pools like that. So, yeah, I mean, the difference in cost, I don't think would be terrific. To have 8 rather than 6.
And
Someday you're gonna need an Arvada type aquatic center, but that's a ways off.
And you brought up a good point about the specs for competition depth-wise, because we were just talking about, maybe 11.5 is okay, but we probably need to double check and make sure.
I just was double checking, they said 4 to 12. The new one they're building in Steamboat is 4 to 12. If you're doing it just the pool we had in South Carolina was just 3.5 to 5. We weren't worried about diving blocks and all that stuff.
Other than the dive well, I think the dive well has to be that deep, but I think, and so I think if you were gonna have to make the dive well 11.5 feet, you were saying, you'd have to have it equal across that side if it was a competition pool, because it changes the,
Yes.
like, if
Yeah.
it's deeper here,
Yeah,
yeah,
less
that's gonna
deep here, it's
change.
gonna change the competition between the lanes.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah, so they'd have to do
Okay.
it all the way across.
I'm not sure what the minimum is for blocks, but I was told 12.
I've seen 6.
Go thank you.
I've seen diving
Oh,
out
I've
of
dove
6.
I don't
into
think
6.
blocks anymore.
I've dove into 3.5 feet
Yeah.
before.
I mean, it's not optimal, but I've seen it, but,
Sounds like we're making your project more expensive, not cheaper, Keith, so.
you're welcome.
That's good.
Can I answer another question? I'd love to participate in your planning as you go. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in our pools in the last, I mean, I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah, he's probably your guy in terms of participating and giving your feedback.
Okay.
As the process moves along, we see it kind of after the processes, we see the plans here and give some feedback, but we
I
appreciate
just
it.
met Keith tonight, so
Yeah.
I'll stay in touch.
There you go.
Yeah, and we'll be at the board next Tuesday. You haven't seen the agenda yet.
It doesn't come out till tomorrow.
Yeah, so it's on the board agenda for next Tuesday.
The same presentation.
Yeah, Jeremy Ollinger will be presenting it.
Okay, what time's it?
I think it's pretty early in the agenda, so it starts meetings start at 6:30, and I think it's 1 or 2 on the agenda, so.
Well, if I think I can make a contribution.
Sounds
We
good.
also have a public input too.
Okay, all right, well, thanks very much. all of you.
Thank you.
Can you spell your last name for me?
HINDMAN. Name you're very familiar with, I'm sure. Some people in this town are. I try to avoid using it. No, just kidding. Take note.
I was gonna say, ask him why there's not 6 lanes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so feedback from the pool, we recommend getting information about how deep the dive well needs to be. What, if it's possible to find out what the cost difference is to get a separate child pool, what that would cost difference, or if that would make a huge difference. What else was there?
Or just to replace the zero depth.
Oh,
And
okay.
then also like the yards versus meters depth requirements for competition.
For Kara.
Yeah, if they can have meets, if they can go back and forth.
I mean, I guess.
And sorry,
Well, I do think it's wise, you know, I realize covering this in any way certainly would not be in a $6 million budget. But it would be smart to plan it in such a way that something could be looked at in the future, especially once Richardson is developed. Or, you know, like once we have another outdoor pool option, or I think it would be smart to at least plan it in such a way that maybe someday a structure could be put over it to make it.
And we are, that's a good point to bring up, because we are trying to plan it in a way that works with our current indoor pool setup. I know we're not gonna make the indoor pool bigger, but, because if you come to the facility, you'll get to use both things technically. So that is another option. If this pool gets shut down, everyone can go inside.
Oh, yeah.
So, there's slides inside, there's a lazy river, there's kids area in there, so we're having those talks back and forth as well. So when this pool shuts down for any time, we still have a facility in there. I know it's not everyone's. Yeah, things like that can take place.
could we also look up the possibility of having an 8-lane pool?
Yeah,
Just because even if you're on swim team, being in a lane with like 7 other people or 10, like it's terrible. Like even just to spread out so people have space, I think. Or again, for people that are just doing casual lap swim, it's always nice to have like your own lane or, you know, be sharing minimally with people. Just what the cost of adding 2 lanes would be if that's a big difference.
I'd imagine it's gonna be pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if the kiddie pool concept is to put in a minimal kiddie pool because there's so much space inside already for the little ones? Minimize the 0 entry and make a separate small, you know, minimal kiddie pool. Just, you know, a lot of them are, you know, a foot deep, just rectangular, so it's someplace else where people can take babies and use that savings to make 8 lanes.
Yeah, can I also just throw out, to your point, maybe just have an 8-lane pool and a kiddie pool. And none of the extra stuff, because you can do classes in the 4 feet in the lap area.
You kinda need
Yeah,
3.
just a rectangle and.
Yeah, like 2 rectangles,
Two
rectangle,
rectangles, yeah.
rectangle, keep it simple. Get
So
rid of
if
the
we-
0 depth, get rid of that extra space.
So you're saying this is the pool,
Yeah, with 8 lanes potentially, and then you have a teeny tiny small kiddie area, and then you've got more space around it to have like more grassy areas in the future. More space for, you know, lawn chairs or whatever you wanna have. Trees,
The only thing I would
if
think
it's
is
gonna
that
be all outdoors.
you're kind of eliminating a whole age group then, because like, you get like maybe 3 to 8-year-olds are gonna be too short for the 4-foot pool and too big for the kiddie pool. And so like that whole subset would be nowhere out there, because this is gonna be too deep for them.
right? That's kind of where we landed too. We kind of
That's a
need
good
this,
Yeah, I
This
just don't
area.
know.
it has its own use and age groups. and
If I
stuff like that.
remember, if you build another separate kiddie pool, that's a whole nother body of water, which requires a whole nother filtration system, which requires a whole nother filtration system, which the way that the system is set up now, it's that pool is sets on one filtration. So if you have to build a kiddie pool, you now have to build a whole nother, like your piping is only there for one system. So it's one body of water.
So that's why you were saying you'd have to have something outside that was a filtration system.
So it's a whole nother building, it's just a whole nother unit.
Which I guess it makes sense to think about the inside would still be available.
Yeah,
So it wouldn't,
Well, okay,
Would
so
be the
to that point, I mean, my kids are between ages 3 and 8, and I'm not saying, I mean, that is a good point that you still have the indoor pool, right, to be able to use, and if your parents are with the kids in the 4 feet, they can be in the 4 feet, but okay, so you can't meet those kids' needs, but you've got the 0 to 100 other, 95 other years, whatever, 80, that are covered. So is that worth a compromise to maybe not, like, we're trying to please everyone here. Maybe some people you can't please. Maybe it makes more sense to just try to get most people and keep it simple.
I appreciate all this talk, but I mean, I guess bottom line here is the Board of Trustees need to approve spending more and taking money from elsewhere. Am I correct? Am I missing something? Is that first step?
I think
That's
there's
Carl
what
there.
I'm trying to get under.
Is that kind of where we're at here? Because I mean, again, I appreciate all of this, but again, we can't even, this is already over budget.
Yes,
If I heard this right.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it feels like we're wasting our time a bit if we can't figure out more money first. So for what it's worth, I just
well, I think
think these are
correct me if
later
I'm
on
wrong,
if we
but
have more money.
We're hoping to figure out how to make it within budget, so like,
Right.
half of it not being as deep, like finding ways to cut costs to make it.
But the second pool's not gonna cut costs.
Right, exactly.
So I guess I just, yeah, again, for what it's worth, it feels like we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here when we probably should be thinking about, is there other money available? Is the board willing to take away from the arboretum, whatever else it might be to realize any of these things?
think it's important to think about, the unknown is what is the swimming population that doesn't go to Berthoud Rec? I mean, I swim with Berthoud swimmers up at Chilton just because the pool doesn't do it, so we should be learning from the mistake that was made of not, the money that wasn't spent when it should have been to accommodate people that are lap swimmers. And the lap swimming only has to be a couple hours a day. I mean, it's not like it's exclusive to lap swimmers. The whole rest of the day, the pool is a pool for everybody. But it just makes me wonder if are we headed towards the same thing, that because of money, we're not considering what the growth in the sport might be. I
Or
don't
in
know,
the
it's
town.
impossible to, or the town.
Well, yeah, I think it's more important to do it right than to have it done by 2026. Like if ultimately it's like, well, for 6 million, yeah, we can cut all these things. But is that ultimately what we're gonna need long term? Then no, that doesn't make sense. It
That's
makes
kind of-
sense to-
That's kind of my point about the 8-lane pool. Are we gonna be like, dang, you know, we had 3, that wasn't enough. We had 6, that wasn't enough. We should have done 8, and then we're regretting it, right?
Mhm.
But there is still another pool going in eventually.
But like a decade or more.
Yeah,
Like
it's a
maybe
long
or
ways
more.
away.
And that's the big budget pool
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that maybe
far
could
off.
accommodate the growth that we might need for the 8-lane pool.
That's more,
It would be more like
no.
that center picture, right?
yeah, more resort.
Oh, so not,
water
not lane
park.
swimmer.
It's more like
Okay.
it's a
Yeah.
recreation pool.
Okay.
Can you
Yeah,
bring up
that's-
that? Yeah.
That was rain dance.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's more like, so the new pool 10 years from now will not be a lane pool.
It will, so like the one on the right, you see those 2 lanes on the basically right-hand side of that left-hand pool.
Oh,
So there's a space for it's from the
but that's
really
not
early
what it's
stages,
really.
but it's a recreation pool. Yeah, it's for when you're hanging out at the ball fields. There's a pool there that's a recreation pool that with a lazy river, etc. But I would, and I don't want to push you guys to make one decision or another because that's not my responsibility. But I did like the comment that someone made. Who is this pool for? And if you make it for everyone, it would be my assumption that there are going to be corners cut and no one is going to be happy if you make it for everyone. Because there are going to be people that are unhappy that it doesn't have 8 lanes, but then there are going to be people that are unhappy because it doesn't have a 0 entry. And then there are going to be people unhappy that it doesn't have a kiddie pool. So the whole process of the survey was, it seems to me, I'm not, once again, not making a comment one way or another, but it seemed to me that the consensus among you guys and the results from some of the surveys was, we want a place for laps / competition. And so if that is what you guys think should be the focus of the pool, then that should be the recommendation that you give to the board. So like your comments, right, if you don't have the 4-foot section, we can't do outdoor classes. If we don't have the 0, we aren't dealing with, or we aren't providing access to the little kids. If we don't have a kiddie pool, it might be closed down. If we don't have the 8 lanes, it's going to be more difficult for the competition to carry out because they don't have warm-up lanes. I don't know if I'm going anywhere with this, but what is the purpose of this pool? Because you can't check all the boxes because A, we don't have the money for that really right now anyway, as designed, which, you know, that can be gone around in various ways. But I think it was like what you said, how long is, if this pool is built, which you guys are having some issues with, how long is it gonna be before everyone else is mad that this pool was built as well?
and I do think, as a group, we definitely over-index in the swimming department. Like outside of this room, I can think of one person in my life. I mean, I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying we do have a heavy feedback in the swimming department, which if you truly took a sample of the town of Berthoud, maybe it wouldn't be the same percentage base, but, so it is a heavy swimming, topic on this board, but.
Like, if you wanna cut, in my mind, everything north of the 6-lane pool is excess. Like, that's fun,
Well, it's redundant too.
it is redundant, right? And it kinda goes back to what, to your point, what was the original purpose or the needs of the town? And I think really people are screaming for lap lanes.
Well,
More
yes,
than
I-
anything,
I think people are screaming for an outdoor pool.
Outdoor.
Yeah,
I don't think I would say just that.
Okay, that's
Like
fair.
my kids we wouldn't go to just the 6 lane. I mean, they're tall enough now, but yes, they would play in it, but we go to those other pools. And it's, for sure, I think the shorter depth even the old pool, I remember when my kids were finally tall enough to stand in it and play on their own. I think, I don't think that would, I think you need both.
Right, and that is kind of to my point as well, because I'm not necessarily a swimmer, and the public pool, when I was growing up, everyone was bouncing on the bottom. There weren't people swimming laps when people were there. There were separate times set up
Yeah,
for that,
yeah.
or there were separate sections.
So the whole rest of the day, it needs to be functional for families just coming to play. I guess.
Right, there's a lot of feedback for something similar to the old pool, which, right?
It was just a rectangle,
This
wasn't it?
is 6-lane rectangle. That was
Yeah,
it.
it was, it was
Yeah,
like,
you
it
came
came around
in.
and it had a shallower
Wasn't
side
as
over
deep.
here and then it
Yeah.
went around and it also had a kiddie pool that was separate. So it wasn't, it was kind of similar to this, just differently shaped, I guess you could say.
But it did have,
It's
that
a
other
hit.
where the stairs came down.
Yeah, that was
And
3.5
it
feet and
was
then it worked its way around to
not
where
as
the
deep.
dive well was. And then that was the
Yeah.
deep end. I think what I took from the survey is that people want an outdoor pool that that everybody can use. And redundant it's hard to say that this is redundant because we don't have an outdoor pool.
The
So
redundancy is the
redundancy
north
is
side. I'm sorry
It's
to
the depth,
clarify.
though.
It's the,
Right, we have lanes inside, so you could theoretically say that to all of it, but to say that we have an indoor kiddie pool versus an indoor area for kids is redundant to having an outdoor area, I don't think it's redundant. I think they're two very different things. I do. In my personal opinion, I think.
I disagree. I think the zero entry, that piece is so well done inside that piece is redundant, and kids could still utilize a general pool that was similar to the old
It
pool.
would
and play
separate
outside.
families, which as a parent, that would be difficult. My younger kid can only be in the inside.
But maybe it's kids
And
that
my
are
older
more, getting
kids.
to that 7, 8, 9-year-old age where because at the old Berthoud pool, is there a zero entry?
No.
So how
There's
did little
a
kids,
separate
how did,
pool.
there,
There's a
you guys,
separate-
but nobody knew there was a separate kids pool. I've heard that nobody can
Yeah, I don't
confirm.
know if-
So
oh,
I just,
maybe
I wanna make sure I'm hearing this right.
Maybe it did not.
So we don't know that existed. Okay.
But it was.
It existed, I know it
It's been
did.
so long.
Were there a
was
lot of kids
shallower.
were a lot of kids using the main rectangular pool? Were there a lot
Yeah.
of children using that pool? Okay,
That's where
that's,
all the
yes.
kids were.
okay.
Yeah.
okay,
Like the
so,
whole, the 3.5 feet all the way around. What would be like this all the way around.
Yeah, I think if
Yeah.
you could have an area that's maybe 3 feet, because
Yeah.
3 feet to
Yeah,
4
I'm not
feet is
saying
a
it
big.
has to be zero entry,
No, I
but it
think
does need to
you could
be
compromise.
Yeah.
Maybe the
shallower
point
than
is
4
is
feet.
You,
the. You could do
so
that
there,
with the kiddie
we
pool,
started,
too.
we had like a sun shelf in there at one point in this area.
Can I ask?
Popular resort things, but we're like, we don't need a sun shelf.
Can I ask a budget question as well? And I don't know if this was specific in the appraisal. What is the cost benefit between concrete and area? What I'm thinking of is imagine, as someone said, this were just a rectangle
Yeah.
with 6 to 8 lanes at the bottom, and then there was just a single slope up to 0.
Yes.
So that the northern traffic is kind of north-south, where it goes from 0 feet down to however deep it needs to go, and then the lanes are backwards. Is there a cost benefit analysis of just making a single rectangle that is a different depth versus having these separate sections that are specifically set apart for other purposes? Because you could, if there is a lap area and a play area, put a floating
Put a lane
barrier
line.
to say, hey, don't go beyond this section because this is for people who are
Seriously, just go
exercising.
like that,
A
right?
lot of
Basically,
schools
yeah.
do that. You
Yeah.
kids have to pass a test to go,
To go
on
into
the
the-
other side of the road.
Right, and then you would have an extra 2 lanes worth of space, give or take,
Yeah.
for people who are not part of a competition or for people who are making the transition, and then you would still be able to have competitions there with the actual marked lanes one way or another. And then you would have the kiddie area, you would have the people who just wanna sit in a foot of water. It's still one body of water, but it seems like the concrete construction, the uniqueness, I guess, or the
design is
the design of
expensive.
it,
Design
the
is
concrete
expensive,
work
right? Yeah.
could be a way to cut a fair amount of that money and still give everything. It just wouldn't be sort of these little regimented sections.
So you're saying to turn it just this way and go straight?
No, I'm just saying
Just
go
saying, like,
just
make it a big
at the
long
top left
rectangle.
corner where there's an angle, just make that go all the way across and then down and cut out all of the concrete and the curves in the middle and make that northern section the zero entry that feeds down into the deep end that is the competition lap lane section.
And then you actually have more space for a grassy area
Mhm.
and or shade or people to mill around too, if it's, I mean, the design piece, like to your point, that sounds like it's gonna be more design heavy in Richardson, right? When you've got this resort design feel, right? But we just want a pool,
Mhm.
gosh dang it.
And when we had a pool, everybody
happy
was
with
so
a
happy
rectangle.
with it,
Yeah.
so, and it was basically
It
a
was a
rectangle,
rectangle.
yeah.
Maybe with some side stuff that we didn't know about.
Very
Very
No,
other than,
there's-
we don't know, it's gone.
I think there's some wisdom in using the old pool as a model, because, we're all saying, that
honestly,
served the purpose, it was
Yeah,
a
fine.
little bit bigger, like
A rectangle.
the design of the old
Yeah.
pool
It works.
that was just fine. It was you had stairs to walk in. It was shallower. It was an L shape. It wasn't a rectangle. It was an L. That I know for sure, 100%.
Well, whatever,
And
rectangle,
it had
get in the water, that's
you
how they
went
work.
downstairs,
It's
and
like a
there
U
was a
shape.
section here that was not as deep, and then it turned to where the lap lanes were. So I guess where the lap lanes ended at the L, it was the 4 feet, but it was, I don't know, 3 or 3.5 leading up to so it was a very simple shape, design, and it worked. Like, that was totally fine. Yes, zero entry would have been nice, but not necessary.
Yeah, that's true.
Or you totally could still do the zero entry. If it's an L shape, because then it's just like on the short end. Have it be zero entry and then the lanes go.
Or a lot of pools like the one down in Uray, it's not zero entry, but it's very, very shallow steps that extend. So it's probably been a little safer.
That's a good point. Even the rec center has those steps alongside whatever the north side of the pool. It's got those like steps, so it is like a foot
Yeah.
for the kiddies to at least be there, so.
Yeah.
And is it the Chilson Center that doesn't, I know they have a zero entry one off to the side, but don't they, the one where they do the swimming lessons, doesn't it start at like 1 foot or 2 foot when they go in?
I'm not familiar with anything except the lap lanes. at
Oh, yeah,
Chelsea.
that one little section, it's not zero entry, but it starts at
Yeah,
like 2
they
feet,
have-
and that's
have
where they do
a
like the
little-
swimming.
Yeah, they have a little
section,
square
yeah.
section that's like,
Yeah.
probably 2-3 feet.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll try to wrap that up. If there were, ideally, there's a separate kid pool, right? So,
Yeah, a small,
but it's
very
like
small kiddie pool.
minimal.
It's not cut.
Very minimal, like it does not have to be.
A rectangle, yeah, we used to
A
call
very
them
small-
waiting pools.
yeah, and I think it's because of the way we're tying into the pipes that are already there coming out. Like those pipes are gonna go to the big body of water. And you can't get different pipes from the kiddie pool all the way into the rec center.
Right, so I guess.
Separate 'em,
I would assume that a
right?
kiddie pool is not within budget. I mean, that,
Yeah.
But we'll check on it.
Ideally though, that's like the top of the line.
Ideally, you have a
would
small
prefer
kiddie
that
pool.
To make
So
sure
you don't
it's
have the shutdown.
Ideally, you have 8 lanes.
Ideally lanes, and my only question with that is, so if they're just warm up, cool down lanes and there's a meet going on and we just say warm up and cool downs inside in the other 3 lanes we have, and then the other 6 lanes are out here for competition.
Is that gonna be is that gonna be a problem with traffic with people that are just trying to use the rec center?
That wouldn't work very well.
And
I mean,
guess
so
I'm
we
thinking
program it.
For Kara, like if that's the program we're using, and probably will be for, Kara's been around forever, do they see a need for 8 lanes?
And
'Cause
yeah,
if
I'd
they
say,
say no, our program, or they might say, yeah, it's really helpful when pools have 8 lanes versus 6.
Don't forget year round. You hear a lot of talk about that. You're really making a mistake, it's not year round.
I agree, and I think, back to the question about money, I think that's the question we gotta be asking here.
Price out of pavilion and garage doors.
Sorry?
A lot of money, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot of, I'm saying I think we should ask the question on, can we double this budget? Or are we really held to 6?
I'm not sure it would be a double, but.
No, I mean, but just
Yeah, I think
how
it's-
far can we go is my point,
It's a great
so.
question.
I-
Ideally, it's year round, right? So
Totally,
what does that look like if it's year round?
totally, and yeah, I agree with you, I mean, swimming is fitness for a lot of folks, my wife is one of them, my oldest daughter right now is getting really interested in.
Do the wrong thing.
No, I agree,
You're gonna have competitions, you're gonna have this and that.
Yeah, so,
Year round.
so I think, yeah, right, well, we need to have that, or the, Board of Trustees, I believe, needs to have that conversation about, are we willing to spend significantly more?
But you gotta know.
Because we're already over budget, I just wanna make sure.
But that-
But you gotta know how much more it is
Yeah.
to see what you're willing to compromise.
We're talking
on
at least
versus-
30-40% more. I
Right,
mean,
and
it's-
it would also be, I think it was you that brought this up as well, if it's just a matter of knowing that that would be a future phase and just being able to, in the
Yes.
future, build upon some sort of
100%.
embedded structure.
Yeah.
That's maybe a different conversation.
the kiddie
Yeah, an
pool.
indoor facility, I mean, that's just a huge budget jump, especially if we're considering an indoor heated facility for year-round swimming, but I mean, could it be a pavilion with the garage doors that open and close, but swimmers are, I know adult lap swimmers are totally okay going out into outside temperatures to get in a pool, but heating, an 8-lane pool all winter, I mean, that's just a
Huge cost, yeah.
expense.
And I would say, what's the cost of a rectangle, a longer rectangle versus what we have, or a different design? Would that save some
Simpler,
cost?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have a question about the year-round aspect. Would there have to be lifeguards on duty for that outdoor, whatever you want to call it, the outdoor pool area? Because we used to have lap swims in the morning with no lifeguard on duty. Maybe things have changed. But, so that's maybe a question is, I mean, maybe we don't need the dollar amount, but that's a consideration as to, do we have the staff capabilities to keep something like this open? Because you've already got lifeguards that are gonna be in the other part of the pool, so do we even have enough staff?
Hopefully.
I mean, it would be the same in the summer, right? Like it would just be,
Yeah.
you need that summer staff.
Yeah, but
Maybe
summer
events.
staff is maybe sometimes easier to come by, cause
Kids, yeah.
kids aren't in school, right? So, is it even possible?
I mean, Carl Keith, as far as the money goes, what do you might not have a great answer for this and don't have to answer either, but what are the odds of this budget being increased by 40%?
yeah, it's definitely, I mean, if we're talking about making it year round or just talking
No,
about.
just
anything.
let's say, it doesn't matter necessarily what, but let's say all the bells and whistles, just like a 30-40% cost
Yeah.
increase. Is that feasible at all, or is?
I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's a lot of money to put into a 4-month, 3-month amenity.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah,
think
that's
that's
why
the
I'm
big
asking, yeah.
conversation. Let's kind of keep,
Sure,
let's kind of go past here.
sure. Because we're already, 10% over, what was it, something like that, 15%
Yeah.
over,
Mhm.
so, yeah.
And that was a concern whenever this whole process started, was when the decisions, or when the option was to build the ball fields versus to build the pool, that term use was one of the conversations because you could use the ball fields all year. The idea was that the pool, because of the cost, would not be year-round.
Yeah.
But if it were to be year-round, it's gonna cost that much more, et cetera, right? So I can't, obviously I can't speak on behalf of anyone, right? But I mean, so it'd be nice to know what the sort of A level, B level, C level, et cetera, proposals would be, how much each one would cost. Because then with the Arboretum coming up and then some of the other projects around town, would the board be willing to postpone some of those maybe smaller projects? Would they be able to postpone phases of this or that? As you guys have been saying, right, how much wiggle room is there to focus on this as opposed to something else that has maybe the planning phase is over and maybe we're waiting for construction and et cetera, right? I can't answer that, right?
Well, and it's hard when you have
else?
one design to look at.
Right.
To your point, like, you know, what's the board's appetite for jumping from, say, like the bronze level to the silver level or
Mhm.
something, right?
Which is a good
Maybe
way.
you don't do gold, but maybe you're willing to jump to silver
Right.
if.
Which is a good way to put that because that's basically the way the bike park was presented to us, right? There's three options. What are you guys willing to go for? Here's the bronze option, here's the silver option, here's the gold option. The bronze option is within budget, silver option maybe within budget, but it's a little bit more, and then you have the gold option, and I can't honestly remember which one we picked, but
You guys chose gold.
so it was, it's used,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
it's
sure.
it's
And you've
people are
been
happy.
able to like expand on it too,
Mhm.
right? So you've planned it so you can make additions when you have a little budget.
Right.
But
Do we have the money to spend on additional concept designs and estimates for 3 alternatives?
Three alternatives, like,
I think we were, I just heard the metals. So gold, silver, bronze. I mean, where right now we have just the one
Mhm.
concept and the one estimate. Is that feasible to spend that money on asking for concept designs for
I think
the
with-
separate kids pool that
I
costs
think
for
with the
that?
comments generated here, and then the board will finalize some comments,
Yeah.
I think they'll,
Is that, so that's board, that's trustee approval for
Mhm.
getting those cost estimates and
Mhm.
going forth with the
Yeah,
consultant?
because I don't know how much it is. For,
Okay. Okay.
Off
good
the
to
top
know.
of my head, I don't know how much the plans even are.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
I think we're gonna hope the board has like a consensus thought.
Yeah.
Next Tuesday to like be like, move forward with this type of design for the pool.
and then from that design, here are some options, A, B, and C, gold, silver, bronze within that. But I think what I'm hearing is we can improve this design before even taking the next steps.
What it sounds like.
But,
Yeah, I think so.
right?
Yeah, because the proposal before the board next week is not to approve this plan; it's to get feedback for future plans.
Yeah.
Right, like either way, you were planning to go back to the design team and work some things out.
Yeah,
like,
work this design
yeah,
out,
That
yeah.
is happening anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean, that is still what will happen next. Is the
Mhm.
board will make comments, they'll go back and change it some.
I think the one consistent comment, for the next conceptual plan, no matter what level of budget it is, I believe, I've heard everybody here say, just a big rectangle, just keep it simple. I'm not sure where this shape came from. I mean,
I agree with
it's
that.
weird.
Yeah.
Is it the same designer you're working with that did the rec center?
Yeah.
You might want to try another one.
They've done a ton of stuff, so, I mean, they're all over US. I think they come out of Arizona or something, so they're there where pools are year round, naturally.
They were kind of looking at Winona as a.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was what could fit in that spot, and
Right.
this pool was brought up a lot in the survey as like, this is a good pool. So I think, I don't know if it's zero entry or something right here.
Is that a little kiddie pool over to the left?
It looks like there's a separation, but I can't tell if it's a different pool or.
That's
This
like
is
a
the
zero
different
depth kiddie pool. Looks
Is
like
this-
it's
Yeah, I know
shallower
it
on one
has-
end.
That one, no. It might be more shallow, but
Oh.
this is their like baby pool.
It's got a zero depth kiddie pool.
Alright, so I've got like an ideal situation, looking into like 8 lanes, own kiddie pool. Different design where it's one
big rectangle.
rectangle. Thinking about the future and the phase of it could be enclosed one day in the future. Let's see. I'll be honest, right now, we feel pretty confident about the 25-meter, 25-yard thing, staff wide. We feel 25 yards, what we should be doing. Because that's the Kara stuff and that's the Chassa stuff, and if we're making 7 meters for Olympic swimmers in town, I think that's a smaller population of swimmers. So we'll continue to research that, but I think like everyone did their own independent research, and I was like, I think we're all coming up with 25 yards. So we'll continue.
I also think it's interesting because we have a meter pool at Mountain View and we host high school, but it's Chassa saying 25 yards. So maybe it's not as hard and fast that you can do one or the other. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think the thought is that we're programming for Kara, and so if
Right.
that's what we're gonna be programming the most and doing the most out of, that's what the town wants to build for. So that's what they're gonna shoot for.
That's what I'm saying is that it seems a little more interchangeable if like Mountain View can host a meet for high school that's supposed to be yards and it's a meter pool. So. All right, any other comments about the pool?
Anything? We'll talk about their stuff real quick. We know there needs to be shade. We know about the restrooms. So of course we're gonna have shade there.
I'd say grass as much
Grass.
as
Thank you.
can be.
I think we've tried to say that too, like we want grass lawn.
I mean, just for instance, look at the aerial of Sunset Pool. This side here to the south is all grass, and do you see how many people are
That's where
there?
people go.
Since I was a kid, this side to the north, that's sand, that's not concrete, that's sand, and no one sits there.
Oh, pool and sand. Oh.
Yeah, it's fabulous sand. Yeah. Raccoons, I think, are the only thing that fit in that area. But so, like, that grassy area is packed in the summer. And the same thing with Bertha Town Pool was the same way. The grassy area was packed full of people. And then the concrete around the sides was, there were some people, but those were like the people that got there late and didn't get a grassy spot. Because there was, another thing was the grass had shade. And so that's something that we might not have right now, but someday
Got it.
can aspire to.
So we think that's a must too, shade there. There's also shade here, we considered that for setting up for swim meets and staging area, the kids would be under shade there.
Is that a pergola?
This, I'm not sure exactly what type of shade, it's not chosen yet, but it'd be solid shade. I don't think we'd be talking about any type of pergola.
Is that stadium seating that's there? Or?
Just,
No, I think that's just.
this just says seating area.
Why couldn't that be more grass?
Well, if you have a rectangle, you can make more grass north of it. Can I ask a question about the slides? Is anyone asking for slides?
I don't think so. I mean, I know
There could be
they're,
more grass right there too, if nobody's asking for it. Or if it's gonna be like potentially in a later phase that you could build it in, you could always rip it out.
I'm
but-
just, yeah, I'm just thinking, the kid in me is like, yeah, slides, but
Super psyched when they saw
the,
it.
I feel like,
Both of my kids were like, they're gonna put slides out there.
So, I'm sorry to interrupt, guys. If no one's asking for slides, just a hypothetical, what if the entire pool were moved north and the building was used as an anchor point for a future enclosed space. Because you already have a wall built.
Well, if you're thinking about the future, potentially having it be indoors, that's a really good point. You wanna have the pool probably closer to the wall, right?
Wasn't the existing slide there?
Yeah, there is an exit, this is
Like,
existing.
Mhm.
that comes out, I mean, that would be in the way. I mean, you could enclose the whole
You
thing.
could enclose.
Is this existing slide that one that is closest to the wall, that's the
Yeah,
the loop that goes around? Okay.
but you could push the whole design like north, right, to your point?
Could also take the slide out and phase the kiddie pool in for the second phase, or vice versa.
Yeah, the slides aren't in the first phase. Just to make sure.
Yeah, that's, my point is if the kid pool is, which I agree, I think that's a good idea to avoid those closures. Maybe you start with the 8-lane lap pool and then you phase in a kid's pool
Where the slide is
instead of the
proposed right
slide.
now.
Yeah. Well, or, yeah, not necessarily, and you could, I agree with you, maybe push the whole thing up, but just, if that's more important, which I think it is,
Yeah, because you've got a slide in the rec center, I mean.
they can walk right through the door, hit the slide, come right back out. Both, I mean, most likely those will be tube slides as well, so you're enclosed when you're in it anyway. But maybe there's a way to get to that separate pool and stay within budget for the first phase. Or maybe.
They're not in the
Slides aren't in the
building.
first phase.
They're not in the bidding for the first phase. That
No-
they're not part of the
No, I
7.5.
know, but we're already over budget for the pool, right?
Oh,
For
right.
just the pool.
Right.
So,
I think you got the feedback too, Carl?
Mhm.
Make sure we share the right stuff next Tuesday.
I'm not gonna be there next Tuesday.
Okay.
So I will send these notes. Sorry, work. But I will send these notes. So, and I can also give a more full report later on. Sorry, I didn't realize it was gonna be back to back to back like that, or else.
I also think if there's too much, if the communication isn't clear, too many questions are raised, it would be a good use of time to have another joint meeting. And the last meeting we had was very productive because we got a lot closer in perspective. I don't know, I'm just suggesting that as a possibility if this is gonna.
I mean, once again, I can't speak for everyone, but for my own point of view, for projects that are large, that are specifically associated with one of the advisory committees, I would like that personally. I can't speak for everyone, but because this is such a large project, because you guys were basically the impetus for the survey, because this is something that you are kind of taking the lead point on, right? I would be okay with that, but it would just have to be proposed, do we have a,
And maybe it's not for next Tuesday, but maybe as the planning gets deeper and things get more
Yeah.
serious, maybe that's the opportunity for Port to jump in.
to have another meeting
I think
whenever
that's a
the,
great idea.
so maybe whenever if and when this goes forward specifically, whatever meeting is going to be the meeting to pay for or not pay for a pool, there is a joint meeting the previous week where all of the feedback can be,
Or maybe even sooner than that,
sure.
just to make sure you're aligned or like we're all on the same page.
I think realistically, it's going to come down to, does the Arboretum get pushed? I mean, that's really like the buckets of money that we're competing for and.
Right. I can't speak for the board, but based on the conversations that I recall, the Arboretum, the sooner that gets started and finished, the better, because that is a exponential increase in cost because of the amount of dirt that has to get moved, because the amount of infrastructure that's going in. So I would say that's gonna be a hard sell to
Well,
move
and
that
I know
around.
the feedback at our last meeting, when we did all meet together, was the trails and open space were number one on the survey, above the pools.
Mhm.
Like, therefore, if we're really listening to the citizens,
Mhm.
that would be a priority.
Mhm.
But I would argue these could all be phased. The Arboretum can be phased and probably will be, the pool could be, sounds like we're talking about potential phases of the pool. So you could start on one thing, phase one here, then move over to phase one over here, then there's probably a way to budget things, so you're pushing
Yeah.
both of them
I
forward.
think the hard thing with the Arboretum is it's plants. It's stuff that's gonna take
Oh,
forever as it
yeah.
is, so
Well,
like
and
I'm
the,
sure
the
it's
grading
like-
piece, the
Yeah,
earthwork
like,
is
the
that's where the money
longer-
is. And you're not gonna, I mean, in my mind, you're not gonna mobilize multiple times to do earthwork.
Yeah,
That's all one
yeah,
fell swoop.
yeah.
Or you're gonna waste tons of, thousands. So yeah, I hear you, and that's gonna, I think that is probably gonna be a stretch to say, hey, let's try to take much away from there, given those excavation and earthwork costs. Because there was a lot of topography there, from what I remember from the design, which is wonderful. I think it'll be beautiful, but yeah, expensive.
I feel like we put somewhat of a pause on Richardson Park for all of these other things to happen too. So that was $72 million that we were potentially looking at spending, whether you phase that out or not. That's a huge bucket too, and that's all part of that parks. And so, I mean, again, to the point of making sure that we're doing it right the first time and getting all those things in there. I mean, that's something that we kind of have pushed back in order to make all these other things happen.
Yeah, I think the last report, the first phase of Richardson was gonna end up being about 23 or 24 million for the
Yeah.
north side ball fields and concessions and stuff.
Right.
So,
Yeah, but all in, it was like a $72 million project, just.
3 years ago, it was a 70 million project 3 years ago.
Yeah, they took out a bunch of stuff. They took out like the turf and all that stuff, and then it came down to like 70, more, palatable.
I did get confirmation there was no kiddie pool.
Yeah, I just looked at that aerial. I wasn't gonna rub it in.
I don't remember cleaning out, I used to have to clean out the pool. I remember there being one pool to clean out, but
Yeah,
How long
there
you-
was like
how
a
long you
road
been
that separated
with the
it,
town?
but it
it's
was
almost
all-
8 years now.
Oh,
Yeah.
so it was a separate,
Nice.
like
It's a
one
good
foot
run.
square, but it was
No,
not
no.
separate. It was just separated by a rope, is that what you're saying?
No, not a 1 foot square, just like the shallower end that was 3 or 3.5 feet. And
Okay.
then there was a rope that went before you got to the.
Oh, it was there. All right. Okay, are we
Yes.
good to move forward?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Staff updates?
Okay, so if you've been on Bertha Parkway, the trail construction started, so that's good. I don't have any timeline on all of it. I know it's gonna, I mean, I think a lot of work will be done within 60 days, and then I don't think we have a timeline on when the actual pedestrian lighting poles that are gonna get installed there are gonna go over top, are gonna get put in.
Is this at Water Avenue or?
Yep. And we're working through the trail going back to the bike park. There's some challenges we're working with the ditch company on. Technically, you gotta stay like a certain feet away from the ditch, which is the road we're trying to use is within that, so that's one of the complications, so still working through that. A reminder, we are starting a new port year, so you get 2 absences. And the third one, you're supposed to be removed from the committee, so just so everyone knows, that's within a calendar year.
And they're no longer Zoom eligible.
I don't know.
Did you say
Yeah, I
that?
thought that was sent. Yeah, I thought it was the same.
So if you
You
get
said
kicked
that.
off, you can't come back, is that?
No,
No,
your
no.
email said Zoom is no longer.
Oh,
offered.
correct.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
have that on here. Sorry, yeah. And yeah, we're not doing virtual meetings anymore, joining wise. So that's through the board, that's through following the lead of other towns, also implementing no more Zoom.
Does that mean the public won't have a link if they wanna watch from home?
They can watch it on YouTube.
After the fact.
Nope, we're live on YouTube right now.
Yeah, live stream.
And
Yeah.
that's why Sarah Newell was calling me earlier.
But you can't comment, like,
Correct.
for the public.
Correct. You have to come view the public, so that's all town board meetings. Let's see, interview, did you say you could do that next week? Okay, so you'll get back to
On
Christian.
Zoom.
That one's on Zoom. Interviews are on Zoom. We used to do them in person in the back room. I don't know. Anyone's. No, no one was here.
I joined during COVID, so none of that was happening.
Yeah. Let's see. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, no, last year.
Oh, that's right. Those are updates.
Spring registration is going on, so new brochure came out February 1st. I think it's our biggest thing going on. Yeah. We'll leave it at that. Register, register, register.
We'll do committee updates. Cloud, any committee updates?
I wasn't there this morning, but from what I assume was talked about was we wanted to do a get together of like, was it no other committees, all of Colorado?
Yeah,
They're just a few. I don't remember, but we wanted to like do
Like a BYAC joint committee meeting with other BYACs across NOCO.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, they're wanting to do a youth commission conference type
Yeah,
thing.
just
where they
to-
invite the other commissions over and offer a conference day where they'll kind of get together and talk about what they do and how they do it, and then have a speaker. They're gonna ask some of the trustees to come and do a couple 2-minute speeches, and then have a motivational speaker hopefully come in. And they'll do hopefully some team building activities and provide lunch for this group. And hopefully this is a new trend that will happen every year, and hopefully another commission will take it on the year after that, and then it'll just be something new that happens from here on out. So
You were at the meeting this morning, right?
Yeah.
What is May 9th about? Why did we
they-
choose May 9th?
well, because half of your commission couldn't do April 26th.
Okay, I can't do May 9th.
Oh,
I can't do anything in May because my mom's due in May.
okay.
So I can't do May.
Okay.
May 9th is not a day that we're off of school.
No, it'll be in the evening.
Yeah. I can't do
So, yeah, they talked about doing a different day, so. Okay. Well, we'll have to re-look at that.
So, but I'm not really sure. I was at FBLA this morning, so sadly I couldn't go, but I think that's what the majority of what we talked about was.
Yeah.
I'd assume.
Callie, no updates.
The flashing crosswalks are great, the new, the one on Fifth, but I did get feedback that Fifth and Spartan and like where the church is, that it's really dark, like there's no streetlights there. And which, then I'm like, oh yeah, I guess you're right, like, I don't walk at night, so, it's not something I've ever noticed, but I know some of them are like neighborhood managed, or what, or maybe they're all town managed, I don't know, but like neighborhoods obviously have streetlights, and that section there isn't really, it's not in a neighborhood, and then, up by Ivy, then there's more lights, but there's not really streetlights in that area.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. All the newer stuff definitely, because Excel kind of designs and puts all those in, and then the town pays for the electricity to run them, and Excel maintains them still. So we don't own the street lights, but Excel or Poudre Valley, REA, they have lights too through town. So if a street light's ever out, you can email us and we can reach out to them, or you can just reach out to them yourselves too. But yeah, I'd have to say
I guess
probably
I-
just the old neighborhood without that part of the design.
Yeah, because like Fifth, those homes that aren't really, I don't know if they're part of Heritage Ridge, but the homes that were built at the same time that are on the north side of Spartan and Fifth, like those aren't, I don't think, are they part of Heritage Ridge?
Depends what side.
I think
On the north side, they're not,
Yeah.
on the south side they are.
Right,
Just
so
down
I'm
the
talking
street.
like the north, anyway, so,
Well, no, the north side of that little street, so here's Spartan, there's a row of houses, these are all Heritage Ridge, and then the other side of the street, across the street from them is not.
right, the north. the northeast corner.
Right.
Of Spartan and Fifth. They're new homes, but they're not part of Heritage Ridge.
Right.
Anyway, so that, when that section was built, I feel like maybe there's just not,
Yeah. So I'll look into it.
something else. Has to pass along.
Okay.
That corner is very dark.
The only thing I had to bring up, I'm on the board for Wildfire Arts with Amanda, and there was a conversation about, the street in front of that. I mean, Wildfire Arts is part of the rec, they're partnered with the town for rec. The street in front of there has angled parking, and it is public parking. It does not belong to Wildfire, and the drainage there, when it snowed, they got about 6 inches of ice that built up as it melted and froze. And so it's a pretty big curb, and it was a really big hazard. Last year, they had someone slip and fall and break her hip on that same stretch. And it sounds like maybe there was a conversation with the town at some point, but there's not any plan to clear that snow there but it is a public roadway. It doesn't belong to Wildfire. We don't own those parking spaces. And so I'm just wondering if there's anything that we can do with the drainage, because it doesn't drain at all. Of course, it's north facing that side of the road, and so it freezes into an ice rink all the way. I mean, it was a good, would you say, 3 or 4 feet from the curb to where the ice ended in those parking spaces. And there's no like, not to open that can of worms, there's not any handicap parking there or any kind of like ramp to get up onto the sidewalk or anything, so you literally have to walk on the ice to get from your car onto the sidewalk.
Okay. Yeah, let me look into it.
Okay.
That's the first I guess I've heard of it, so.
Pardon?
That's the first I've heard of it.
Yeah, I don't know who she is. She said she had talked to somebody, but I don't think it was you.
Yeah, she talked to you, but she does pay somebody to come out and plow that area, but if there's cars parked there, and she said she's not allowed to block off any areas for them to come and plow it. But, I don't know.
Yeah, let me check about that.
But there
'cause-
seems to be, maybe there's a drainage issue right there, so
So-
something's not draining because it's just freezing.
Yeah, I've never thought about
I don't know where it drains.
that being public parking and if we should be getting in there ourselves to clean it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's considered, it's not owned by Wildfire, it's all street parking, and it's mainly there's a couple houses across the street that are rentals that have multiple people living there, and so they use that, and that's fine, that's what it's there for, but then there's cars there 24 hours a day, and so it's really difficult to clean it out, and then it becomes, Wildfire ended up having to pay for the woman who fell and broke her hip, so it's one of those things where we don't have any control over it, but are responsible for it, and so.
That's really weird, yeah. Except
What's that?
if it was on
Yeah.
town property, they'd be coming after town.
So I don't
So
know if
that's
they
why
just
it's
hit,
weird.
I don't know if the ice was up on the curb from it overflowing. I don't know
Okay.
if that was the issue or what the logistics of it
Okay.
were. I think
Yeah.
we just did whatever we needed to do to make it okay, but
Got it.
that'd be something.
No, that's a new little
Sorry.
thing to look into. No, I mean, it happens all the time. Drive around and haven't heard of this, or, I mean, I've seen the area, of course, but no one's ever brought it to my attention, but like, I have this happen every day almost, so.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
just happens when we get these big snowstorms and then the roads melt and freeze and melt and freeze and melt and freeze. But-
Yeah.
So it's not a big issue all year long, but just thinking.
Yeah, no, it's good. This is fun stuff to look into. I had one today that
Fun.
got right up to me, and someone moved into a house, and they're like, you know, the town built this fence here, and you guys got to fix it. And I mean, it's near Roberts Lake, but it's not like a fence you would think is our fence. I found in 1992, there's Larimer County records. Town grants this easement and built this fence, and we'll. Oh wow, that's actually recorded, which that never happened. That might change. It's gonna become a turn lane when you're heading west on Bunyan. There's actually, we just have to wait for the temperatures to get right for the paint and stuff like that. So it will turn into a turn lane, and there's 3 more flashing things that will go on Mountain Avenue. I think we're doing one on 2nd Street, 3rd Street. We're figuring out whether we want to do 6th or 7th, which would take you Fickle to Town Park.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good job, Rita.
3 more will be going And CDOT's actually paying for 80% of those ones, so that's
Is there time for the flashing light that goes across, Berthoud Parkway, just south of where this picture is? Where you're going across and then
Oh, the
you're
lake.
going down the.
waiting on the design team to put together that for Lake Avenue, that Lake Avenue crossing to get down to the trail.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, still waiting on that. So everybody's been done.
I enjoy just crossing illegally and I really like the lights that go into the neighborhood with McDonald's. Those are really nice. So, yeah, they're good. I like all the new ones that are in. I'm excited for the rest of them to come in.
Nothing, thank you.
Nope, yeah, thank you guys, let me know, I apologize for not being there next Tuesday with the first pool review coming in. But as always, email me if I can do anything, or if you guys wanna, give me specific direction during the meetings, that's been working out really well. The board was really happy about the combined meeting the last time, there was a lot of good feedback, to echo again that, but yeah, I don't have anything.
With that, I think we're done. Trying to get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Thank you.
I was expecting a lot. We just took so much time off, so much